So we have to get away from Marketplace,
Yes.
stop looking at cool cars, and a guy near me that is offering to dig a tunnel.
What?
And we have we have to record a show. We can't talk about it.
What do you mean a guy? Is
Wait,
he
he's offering to
threatening
dig a tunnel?
Is it an offer or a threat?
It's an offer, but I don't. We got a show to do. We can't talk about that now.
We can't talk
Can
about
you
it.
screenshot that so I can put that in the beginning of this episode?
I suppose. All right, everybody gets to see the tunnel. The tunnel. It's only kind of a tunnel. But hi, everybody.
Who puts tunnels on Marketplace? Hi.
Welcome to Somehow You Didn't Die on Your Way to Work, the only podcast with ADHD.
I'm not diagnosed, so shut up.
I am.
I'm not, but come on. It's that and a touch of the tism.
You know me. I'm Zach. You know him. That's Joe. But who is that? Who is that just spoke up there?
Hi, everybody.
What's your name, friendo?
My name is Evan.
Evan, what do you do? What are you an expert on?
Oh, Lord. I'm an expert. No, how does this go? I do railroad civil engineering.
There we go. Good enough.
It just says tunnel. TUNEL. Why does it just say tunnel?
It's a weird way to spell SYDDOYWTW.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Why is this man threatening to dig tunnels for $100? Oh, it's in Spanish. Oh, that might just be a tunnel to the... Okay.
What's the translation of that? Tunnels, trenches, y más?
Yeah, tunnels, trenches, and more. This is a civil engineering podcast for the next 30 seconds. Hold on. Where is he going to dig this tunnel to? Is this a coded message to someone else?
It might be.
I mean, it totally looks like he went underneath the house and followed that pipe in the picture.
Right. Department of Homeland Security, don't look. Let this man dig his tunnel his tunnel in peace.
That should be the start of the episode right there.
I'm not editing the beginning of this at all.
So I guess we got to describe to the fine people out there who are enjoying this right now what the fuck is going on.
Go to YouTube and look at it.
Go to YouTube and look at what? I don't know. Tunnel. Whatever. Hi. So yeah, this is the podcast that you don't pay to listen to, and we can tell. Evan, what's your last name? Do you have any information about yourself at all that you can give now that we have removed ourselves from the tunnel?
So my name is Evan Whatley. I'm living outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Know Zach from a long time ago, but I worked for Amtrak up in the Northeast Quarter for about 8 years, and then for Norfolk Southern a couple of years before that, but mostly on the engineering support side, doing like drainage and slope stability, stuff like that, those kind of projects.
You get along with previous guest on the show, Gareth Dennis.
And
he does that in Britain.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we need to talk because I always wanted to implement Network Rails kind of hazard remediation program. But he, like Amtrak, never has the money to really do the cool stuff, only put out fires.
Yeah, many of our guests would all like each other.
Maybe for like the 50th episode, you'll do like a big guest meetup, and it'll just be like
that was the last episode, or no, two episodes ago. That was the next the next low cost airline based disaster will just be every guest speaking in unison.
Put out the cattle call now.
They're going to listen to this. I think the only one we need to get is Justin Rosniak again.
Well, why are we here today?
We're here because I got back from vacation so we could actually record this. Although I will say I did bring my fucking headphones on vacation thinking that you were going to message me and ask me to record at some point, and then we didn't.
No. This one took a lot to break down and really dig into.
I mean, the report alone was how many pages?
A lot.
Not as bad as that
The Potomac
the
crash.
Potomac River collision.
Oh, Lord.
It was
This is
so
less than
bad that we're
half of
20.
that.
It was so bad we're 23 hours late to our own recording.
That's
we were
right.
supposed to record this yesterday.
That's right.
Well, I think the other thing too is like since this is happening up in the Northeast Corridor, there's different rule book than what you're used to, Zach. So trying to wrap your head around some of those fun things.
That's
took a
right.
little bit.
We're on the Northeast Corridor today. Again, have we done something on the corridor? I don't remember.
I
don't think we have.
No.
But I don't as
Wait,
far as
did
I know,
we?
we haven't. After I record each episode, I promptly forget about it.
Did we? No, we did.
Right.
We did a fire in the Washington metro system for episode 1.
That's right. Close enough.
Did
But
we?
we're here today to talk about
We did the
1987 Chase
in
Maryland train collision.
The fatigue episode we did had a New York Metro North crash.
Yeah.
That's close enough. Yes, we're doing the next episode. This one. You said something, Zach, and I was speaking, so I didn't hear it.
I was trying to get the show back on track. We're here.
Look at the picture and then tell me about on track. That's not happening.
Oh, look at that. That was a quality pun. But as always, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, we have to talk about the
news.
News. And I'm prepared today. I have my timer.
Yes, and I'm prepared because these are some of the only slides I made because I have been recovering after vacation. So
more to come on that later.
So we have 5 news items today. The first one happened on August the 2nd. A Seattle light rail train crashed. Or it actually just multi-track drifted. This is not a huge news item, but it was very public, and it happened at a really bad time because it was right after an Ed Sheeran show.
I was about to say it was after a concert.
So this was like not a good time to be trying to use public transit in Seattle. So it just happened. Not very good. The image below that one is from July 12th. Was that when it was?
I don't remember the actual date. I didn't notice.
It was like the 12th or the 13th, maybe the 14th. But this was the day that Big Boy, Union Pacific 4014, ran back through Ohio going east to west. This was the Conneaut to Fostoria leg, and out somewhere outside of Cleveland on the west side, I think after Rocky River, some dipshit was essentially standing dead center in the middle of the tracks.
He was standing on the tie butts, but it was still way too close.
Yeah, and so Ed Dickens stopped the train and yelled at him, which was really funny to see.
Living the dream.
That was hilarious. I was actually chasing the train at this point, and that's probably one of the only reasons why I was able to get ahead of it at the time that I did, and then also explains why when I did see it the next time, it was doing track speed, because Ed Dickens probably shoved the throttle as far forward as it could go, and because he was mad as hell. That guy is probably running off of like Tums the same way the engine is running off of oil.
Like Ed Dickens got to do the thing that we all wish we could do, and it's just like publicly shame an idiot.
I don't think he got to do the thing he wished to do, which is to take a piece of heavy equipment from inside the cab and beat him with it.
Okay, so we got the next best thing.
Yes. Real steam locomotive engineers wish they could throw foamers into the firebox.
Oof.
But yeah, so that was fun. That's really funny for those of us who don't try and stand in front of the moving train. And then this next thing is just funny because it's Schadenfreude. So for those of you who don't know,
How?
there what
What'd you call it?
Schadenfreude. It's the German word that it's. I thought it was Freude. Is it Schadenfreude? We're arguing over German. Evan, you were stationed in Germany. Is it Freud or Freude?
I think it's Freude.
Oh,
Fuck
no!
you! I was right.
I've been saying it wrong for years.
Fuck you! I was
Pretty
correct.
much, you pronounce all those vowels in there, unless there's two of them, and then the second one does the talking.
I took 1 semester of German in college.
I took a semester of German in high school.
Clearly,
of course,
didn't
high
take
school
any
was when I
classes
did
while
not
I was
pay
stationed
attention.
Clearly, the last gasp of my brain plasticity glommed onto that. But so for those of you who don't know what DEF CON is, and I'm not talking about our Armed Force Defense Readiness Condition, or Defense Condition, I'm sorry. DEF CON is an annual hacker event in Las Vegas, and it really is about people who do not go outside, going outside for the first time ever. It's the same people who are intensely into any hobby, but this time they're into hacking security things, which means that if you go to Las Vegas when DEF CON is on, do not turn your Wi-Fi on. Under any circumstances, do not log into anything. Just don't go to Las Vegas while that's happening if you're not like also an internet security guy. But what happened was that as I was as the con wrapped up, people were flying home, and a group of dipshits who were flying from Las Vegas to Atlanta on Delta decided that the correct thing to do was in a tube where you can't leave and where your government ID is mandated to get a seat on it, they should set up a obvious Wi-Fi phishing attack where they attempt to harvest passengers' personal data by setting up a fake Wi-Fi network. This is called communications fraud, among other things. It also might be interfering with air traffic and is generally in the realm of felonies.
Ooh.
So what
Spicy
happened
offenses.
is that when the plane landed, because people noticed immediately, what happens when the plane landed is they were immediately arrested. So
I'm surprised they figured it out that quickly.
Oh, come on. Somebody had to figure it out very quickly. Or
Yeah.
the sworn enemy of the person that was doing it, like, tapped the flight attendant on the shoulder and was like, hey.
They broadcasted a malicious clone network named Delta Wi-Fi Fast. That's your first thing. It is not named Delta Wi-Fi Fast. They also successfully...
How many people clicked on that one because it said fast?
I don't know. It might have, but that's called the crime. That's called crimes, and they got in trouble for it. So that is... They deserve whatever happens to them next. I would also like to point out, DEF CON is like a white hat sort of event. Like, you're not supposed to be doing inherently malicious things at DEF CON. People do. But, like, that's bad form. So you might also...
the spirit of the con.
You might also be banned from the con next year. I mean, they're also going to be banned from air travel, so that's beside the point.
They can't even get to DEF CON next year.
Yeah,
they can't even get to the Delta Sky Lounge or anything like that now.
Never.
You're going to have to be real quick on these last two.
Yeah, basically, yesterday, a wire came down on the Sydney, Australia public transit system. They use overhead wires for their commuter trains. Unfortunately, it was at a point where a lot of the commuter lines overlapped. So basically, at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, right before rush, the entire system went down.
Hell yes.
And then finally, we have just some good news. FedEx continues the trend of companies clowning on CSX with retro liveries by introducing a retrojet. Boeing 777F November 884 Foxtrot Delta was unveiled in this beautiful rendition of the airline's pre 1990s livery. Actually, no, it was early. Like they ended in like the late 90s. This livery, back when it was still Federal Express. This was part of the greater celebrations, renaming Memphis International Airport to the Frederick W. Smith International Airport, because FedEx was founded and is still headquartered in Memphis, and Fred Smith founded FedEx. The aircraft, following FedEx's tradition of naming all their planes after children and grandchildren of their employees, is named Rosie after Fred Smith's granddaughter.
That's cool. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, no, they've done that for years. It means that all the FedEx planes that crashed and died had names. So think about that.
Oh.
That made it really dark really quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which one survived the hijacking? What was its name?
Oh God, I'd have to look that one up. It says it on Wikipedia if you actually do look it up. Do we have time to Google this live on air?
We have 40 seconds. Hang on, I'm looking. John Peter Jr. survived hijacking.
Yep. That was FedEx Flight 705 for anyone who's curious about it.
Oh God.
But yeah, that's it for the news brief. Now we go on to the news long, which is the next slide. We have train fall down, Mr. Bond. The United Kingdom has been going through a period of record heat recently. I think actually a couple of days ago was the hottest recorded day on record so far. You know, we've got to have that little asterisk there. Now, I don't know what it got up to, but I can say, having been in England last month, that it was fucking hot, and you people need to invest in air conditioning technology now. And I don't care that you don't use it for like 11 months out of the year. The 1 month of the year is worth it. You don't understand this.
Life without AC in a society that is perfectly capable of using it is
all of Europe is like this.
Unfathomable to me.
I should say this, most of Europe is. I was also in Italy, and the Italians do many things wrong, but air conditioning is not one of air conditioning they actually do have. Everywhere else, though, the Brits don't. Then again, I went through some places. I'll talk about my vacation more at a later point, but I thought that all the jokes about Wales were like just mean-spirited things. No, they're true. Elevators haven't reached universal usage in Wales, let alone air conditioning. My brother had a room on the 4th fucking floor of a hotel.
Oh, and he had to trek up there every single time.
It was only for one night, so he had to trek up there with his suitcase.
Hell yeah.
Funny. Did you just throw it out the window to come down the next morning?
I don't know. He got down before I did. He's very self-sufficient with stuff like that.
I noticed a lot of sentiment online from the Brits about how like they were above using AC somehow. Like, hey dudes, you are not above heat stroke. I can tell you that right now.
I'm particularly enchanted with the French's problem with it, which is that it makes the outside hotter. And my response to that is, you're not supposed to be outside. That's the whole point of air conditioning. You're indoors then.
Yeah, we have it so we can stay in and not die of heat stroke.
But that's not the French way. I mean,
well, I suppose that strike, like they're supposed to. The heat is on strike in their minds. Who would they be to disrupt someone else's strike? But whatever. We actually have some news to very briefly report on here before I get taken away. There will be an episode in the future in which I've messaged Gareth about this, where it's going to be a not very serious argument of Britain's road system, and I'm sorry to say it is just going to be, a version of that one Onion article of the worst thing that ever happened is going to happen soon versus no it won't. And I'm really not mentally prepared yet for the fact that I am the no it won't in this argument. Well, Gareth is out here with like facts and logic, and I'm just like, I don't care, dude. I like top respect to Gareth. It's just like I personally
the image in my head is the two of you sitting on either side of a table, and Gareth just pulls out this manila folder that is barely being held shut by a binder clip because it's so full. And he slides it across the table and says, well, if you actually look at this data right here, and you just immediately push it back and go, nuh-uh.
I would shove it off the table, but yes. It's like Crossfire. It would be like Crossfire, but like a modernized version of it where it's just with polarized opinions.
Well, do y'all remember like Even Stevens from the Daily Show, where Stephen Colbert and I guess
vaguely,
yes,
and they would just like scream at each other.
That's what it would be.
Wind up with one of them crying and then like consoling them, and
a great podcast.
Oh yeah,
it's Gareth is going like yes, and I'm just like no, I don't care. Anyways, continuing on. On the Thursday, the 13th of August, a Southern Railway train from London Victoria to the city of Eastbourne, which is on like Britain's south coast, Southern Railway, came off the tracks in Lewis.
Oh, is that why it's called that?
I never knew.
Yes.
Oh.
It went. Tell me that's not tell me that's sarcasm, right, Zach?
You may never know.
Okay.
Moving on.
Anyways, the train made it to Lewes, East Sussex, which is kind of near Eastbourne. It came off the tracks. This was two electric multiple units coupled together. The rear multiple unit seems to have just fallen off the tracks and gone down an embankment. We're not certain yet why. The tracks, there are photographs from inside the train looking back down the tracks, and it seems like the tracks are fairly destroyed. I'm not sure if that's just from the train dragging along the line before it came off or not, but based off of everyone talking about the weather and everything, it's probably some kind of heat-related kink in the tracks.
Oh, boy.
I mean, it could also be some other sort of derailment, but I haven't heard anything we're at the baseless speculation stage. So I don't have anything else for it. And
I know up front they were saying a little bit about like maybe a subsidence in the line, like something like that, but I haven't heard anything to back that up. But it makes more sense to have a rail buckle in the heat.
Evan, what chips are you eating? I can hear a crinkling bag.
What? Okay, I'll stop eating my chips.
Which brand of chips is this?
This is important.
Okay.
Are they Doritos?
No, they're actually Katie couplers.
What?
Do you have like a bag of Katie couplers just sitting on your desk?
I have a little, what would you call this? Like a Tupperware container full of KDs that just get dumped in there. And when I'm like, okay, I need a short shank, I just start digging around with a little screwdriver to find it and then pull it out. Sorry, I just got a bunch of Southern Railway FP7, so I'm trying to put proper couplers on them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we interrupting your model train time?
Yes.
I'm sorry. If only we could have recorded yesterday. This would not be interrupting your busy modeling schedule.
All right, I'm putting away my trains.
No, you can have them out. Just be sure to mute yourself before you dig through the Tupperware full of couplers. That's my new favorite interruption for this show.
That's fantastic. Sir, what made you think you had autism? Stairs down and Tupperware. We've been on the Discord call for 3 hours before we started.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff to discuss here, man. Come on.
Oh, yeah. We
were
put together a
supposed to-
quality show.
We were supposed to record yesterday.
If
And-
we recorded yesterday, we wouldn't have that one slide that's
I know,
coming up.
I know.
It's
Thank God.
All right,
Thank God
yeah.
for that. But anyways, we are recording on August 14th, but my notes still say today on the we're recording on the 15th. My notes still say today, the 14th. A Greater Anglia Railway train derailed in Wickford, Essex, and hit a catenary pole. It's probably nothing, but because there was this very public accident that happened the day before, there's a lot of hay being made about it. Again, we don't know why yet. It could be anything. Could be a heat kink, could be something else. Maybe the train and the catenary pole have beef.
I want to know the background on that one.
Petition the Audrey family to write another story, which I would like to point out that I tried to because I met the Audrey family at an event at the Tally Lynn Railway while I was on vacation.
Nice.
So I tried. I have officially done more than 90% of you people.
Getting cred in the fandom forums.
The other 9% listen to this, anyways.
So the only thing I want to say here is kind of funny about that catenary pole being a little bent out of shape. There's a number of places up in the Northeast where, there's still a catenary pole that's still in service, but you could tell it got bent.
Yeah.
You got thwacked once or twice.
Yeah, the concept of frangibility really doesn't matter that much in railroading context, but it seems like it should be, but also that's one of those things where it's like, does it matter at a certain stage?
Nope.
No.
It still works. It's fine.
Yeah. So, no, train fall down, Mr. Bond. I don't have anything else. Does anyone want to offer an alternate opinion as to why the train might have derailed? Either of them?
I feel like it's not a coincidence that 2 trains derailed when it was hot as hell, and that is where my money is going as a bet on this is heat-related track damage causing trains to derail.
Yep, I would agree with you.
That's what I was thinking too.
You could make an entire episode here about like track buckling countermeasures and whatnot. But
Union Pacific apparently is starting to paint rails white to try and lower heat absorption, which is actually something that I saw in Italy on some of the high-speed rail lines. Was the rails are just painted white.
Dallas area rapid transit started doing the same thing on the light rail, and it seems to have a fairly drastic effect.
Yeah,
so
just paint the web of the rail, and that's it.
It does lower the neutral temperature, or like the ambient temperature of the rail by like 10 degrees or something like that. Because
it's a lot.
We were looking at this at Amtrak, but some of the old heads were like, "Nah, it's not going to work." And then Metro North,
no. You can't try to make things better. We've always done it this way.
New York and New Haven. Yeah, basically. But I mean, Italy has really taken it to heart on their high-speed network. It seems like it'd be really good around interlockings where you don't want like a lot of expansion of the rails. That special track work is a place where the rail isn't really constrained that very well. So there's a lot more chance to getting buckles there. So a lot of European countries will now put in like expansion joints right before that kind of stuff.
Ooh, that
just
sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, we could do an entire episode on track buckles.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we are not going to do an episode on track buckles. Instead, we're going to go on to the next slide, which is the first real slide of the episode, and we're going to talk about
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yes.
So we are going to give you something to put a pin on. I didn't really know how to work it in, but there's a factoid in here that absolutely has to be worked into the episode. So we're going to touch very quickly on the war on drugs. And I promise this one is going to be quick, even though that's a whole fucked up thing. The war on drugs has a very loose timeline. Busting the drug of choice of whatever minority was being targeted that day has been a tried and true tool of American democracy for over a century. In addition to actually combating drugs that are genuinely harmful to society, you can kind of villainize stuff and wrap it under the war on drugs. And if you're against the war on drugs, then you're not American. But we can pinpoint a very specific time when a new tool was put on the tool belt of the American government, and that was drug testing. We're going to go back to 1971. The war in Vietnam War, however, I refuse to call it conflict, was going horribly. It was a battle that we were bound to lose, and morale within American troops was at an all-time low. As a method of escapism, many soldiers began smoking heroin or weed to relieve themselves from the hell that was fighting blindly in the jungle against an enemy who, despite not being as well equipped, absolutely had the upper hand on you. And they were dirty commies to top it all off. In this year in particular, friends and families of returning servicemen began consistently writing letters to their elected representatives, blowing the whistle on a new problem. These guys were coming back from Vietnam absolutely fucking hooked on weed and heroin. Congress urged, friend of the pod, hit that transition, Joe.
I did. I was following along.
Richard Milhous Nixon urged him to take action, and on June 17, 1971, Nixon signed Executive Action number 11599, establishing a Special Action Office for Drug Abuse Prevention. This order required drug testing for all soldiers returning to the U.S. in an action that was called, and I promise you this is not a joke, Operation Golden Stream. I don't know how you're supposed to take this seriously.
They should have just called it Operation Evil Bong. Evil Bong versus Ginger Deadman. I'm sorry.
No, we're not getting into that bad movie. But Nixon had also signed the Comprehensive Drug Abuse and Prevention Control Act back in 1970, which classified every single drug on different tiers or schedules and provided a broader legal basis for law enforcement of any level to take a much more punitive approach to drug-related offenses. While drug testing was still in its Wild West days, relatively speaking, it gave the government another weapon for villainizing users of any drug that they deemed unsafe. A hot test and all of the stigma that came with it. You had to pee in a cup and you better hope it came back clean. By 1986, drug testing had been extended to railroads for employees in safety-sensitive positions, but only in two very distinct circumstances, pre-employment and post-incident testing. These were also paired with breathalyzers to test for alcohol in an individual's bloodstream. However, neither of these actually provided an accurate picture of drug and alcohol abuse on the railroad or any DOT-regulated industry. Random drug testing wouldn't become a thing until a little later, and we'll talk about that here in a little while. Let's go to the next slide. It's time to start talking about specific equipment that we need to know about for today.
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
This might be the easiest train we have ever talked about. This train, which
Conrail
we'll get into more specific.
ENS-121.
There you go. Was 3 locomotives. No cars. Nothing trailing. Just 3 of the exact same models of locomotive. Numbers 5044, 52, and 45. I should say 5044, 5052, and 5045. They were all General Electric B36-7s. These 4-axle, I believe they're road switchers. Or it might have just been...
They're all technically road switchers. An ST70 is technically a road switcher.
Yeah, this may have been at the end of that different classification. But they were actually rather powerful at 3,600 horsepower. They could get up to 70 mile an hour or 112 kilometers an hour. They were designed to pull high-speed freight, and they had 20-cylinder engines in them. I thought I read that, but now that I said it out loud, I can't remember.
I think they might have been smaller displacement 20 cylinders.
I want to say that is why they were so expensive to operate, and they weren't as popular. The thing about higher horsepower, it comes at a cost.
16 cylinders.
16, that was it. That was
Yeah,
big
'cause
for GE, not for
they
EMD.
yeah, well, the thing with GE at the time was they were still playing catch up to the absolutely indomitable force that was the SD40.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, you can see an SD40 in the center picture with behind 5052. And so really General Electric wouldn't start making bigger headway until the dash until like they got into the much bigger like 6 axle dash 7s and dash 8s before the dash 9 sort of ran away with it, at which point they got bigger. The B36, the B series and the dash 7s were never as popular as the comparative engines, which were the SD40, the SD50, you know, although the SD50s didn't always work that well either. The SD60s as well were coming into their own, and I think in a couple of years the first SD70s were coming out with narrow cabs. But that's
I
to
love those
come.
so much. Those things are cool.
Yeah.
But
You don't see a lot of these anymore.
for
I
a reason.
Yeah, like even like of the GE B series ones that have survived, I think most of them are like B40s because those worked a little better. The whole thing with these, and I understand I'm rambling a little bit, is that like when it came to upgrading them and rebuilding them later, for whatever fucking reason, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it is, um, EMDs were infinitely easier to rebuild and upgrade than GEs were. Like the wiring was just much harder to access and in a much less like workable condition
Oof.
than I don't quote me on this because I talked to a guy once for an article that I wrote on trains.com who used to be like fairly high up at NS, and he said that it was like something to do with EMD's wiring choice that made it better, like the physical wiring didn't degrade as much. But in either event,
Oh,
the EMD dash twos, especially the dash twos, were just so much better in like every sense of the than a comparative GE locomotive at the same time. And it's one of
it,
those things that you don't find out for like 10 or 15 years after the fact. It's sort of like why nowadays everyone's really hype over like older Toyota Land Cruisers and stuff like that, when if you bought them new, you'd be like, why am I paying for some damn foreign car when my Ford Explorer from 1991 is the same, is like does the same thing. It's you don't know until like later that the frames will rust out a lot faster. I'm
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But these were the like I said, simple train, mediocre locomotives. We'll touch later on why they were there and why this was just a light power move. But all you need to know for now was that 5044 was the lead locomotive. It was facing short hood forward. 5052 and 5045 were trailing, and they were both facing the opposite direction. So that's now that we're done with our easy train, let's talk about one that's actually cool. Next slide.
Yes.
We're going to get into meatballs, Swedish meatballs, the Amtrak AEM7. The first batch of these were built in 1978 by AC, who has a Swedish industrial manufacturer, EMD. They're based on the Swedish RC4 locomotives, and each one of these will put out 7,000 horsepower, which blows my little diesel electric mind away.
Yeah, electric locomotives are really pint-sized powerhouses, especially like considering that the GG1 put out equivalent. How much horsepower did the GG1 put out? It was like something similar to the AEM7, wasn't it?
Let's find out.
Oh boy,
we're doing it live because we're not Oh
yeah, I was gonna say,
no,
everybody's
no, it was
Googling
not.
this.
It was nowhere close. Well, short duration, they could put out more at 8,500 horsepower, but continuous was only 4,620.
Okay, so yeah, so the AEM7 was really like a step change for Amtrak. And they weren't even like actually the design that Amtrak wanted. It's really funny. The AEM7 was created mostly because Amtrak had tried to replace like for like the GG1 in the early 70s, because we all say that the GG1 is the best locomotive ever made, and that's because we're right. But by the early 1970s,
Damn straight, brother.
the GG1s were 35 to 40 years old, and serious frame issues were occurring where they were just starting to like crack. And so the engines were approaching the end of their serviceable life. I mean, and this was even before we knew what PCBs were and all the other and asbestos and all the other horrible things that were inside them that would need to be remediated. They just were falling apart. Like the car body was holding the locomotive together. That
Well,
sort of thing.
they were made before Richard Milhouse Nixon invented the environment, so they couldn't damage the environment.
No, the environment just damaged them back.
That's right.
Through gradual erosion. So Amtrak got with General Electric, and they created the E60. The E60 is not shown here because the E60 was a miserable failure.
It needs to be forgotten.
No, really, the E60 is a tragic hero, because it tried. Like, there's nothing that was supposed to be wrong with it. It wasn't rushed. It might have been rushed, but it wasn't like some horrible compromise design. They built a big square locomotive and they filled it with electrical components, and it was supposed to go down the track at 120 miles an hour where physics and aerodynamics be damned. And the problem was that the motors were more than willing to do that, but General Electric hadn't gotten the truck design right. And so what happens is that once it gets above like 85 miles an hour, the E60 starts to shimmy. There's actually a really great video on YouTube that I can't put in this video because we'll get copyright strikes, of an E60 moving down the track under all three axes of motion while Matthew Wilder's "Break My Stride" plays. And it's you look it up if you can find it, but it wiggles because wheel hunting is a very, at the time, new science. And so the trucks and the wheels just basically didn't let it stay up like on a straight and narrow path. This is something that actually happened a lot in the 70s. The P30CH diesel that EMD built for Amtrak around the same time.
They hunted horribly.
They hunted horribly, and the P30s actually had a giant water tank in the back for the
steam generator.
And the water tank didn't have baffles in it. So the hunting caused the water to slosh, and if it was below a certain point, it would throw the locomotive off the tracks. Which is why they derailed so often.
Incredible stuff.
So this was an...
I guess I have to point out that for those unfamiliar with the term, hunting is, the rails are a fixed distance apart. More standard gauge throughout the world is 56.5 inches. The flanges on railroad wheels are not exactly 56.5 inches apart. Yes, and they're actually inset ever so slightly. So hunting is when there is lateral play in the truck, and it goes from one flange being pressed up against the rail to the flange of the wheel on the opposite side being pushed up against the opposite rail, and it bounces back and forth between the two.
And
it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and
you will get these crazy oscillations inside of the car body if you're riding in a car that has, kind of deadened wheels or something like that starts to hunt. It's not fun.
I've been tossed out of my seat by a genset that hunted horribly at about 45 miles an hour.
And this was a real problem that railroads all over were trying to fix, because especially on like freight railroads, the invention of the fast freight was a real problem when you've got like a boxcar that just decides that 70 miles an hour means I'll just die now. And it hurls itself off the line, taking the 40 cars behind it with it. So it's something that was a new thing that people were understanding and now had to be dealt with, which they did with engines like the AEM-7. The AEM-7 basically was the E60, but smaller, better, and because it was European, gayer, I guess. Like if we're just like if I'm going to continue this joke, which I can't stop it now. The E60 is like the bear, and then the AEM7 is the twink, right?
Oh,
Like I couldn't stop that once I thought of it. I'm so
Full
sorry.
auto mode for the AEM7. But somehow it does so much better.
But yeah, so the AEM7 was developed out of a Swedish locomotive design because the Europeans, I'm not going to say America does everything the best. America just did not do high-speed rail the best. The Europeans had sort of gotten there before us. And so there was actually in the 80s and 80s, there was actually a design competition where they imported an RC4 and a French CC 2600
21,000 locomotive.
Yeah, but those two locomotives were actually imported over to the US and tested back and forth in much in the same way they did when they trialed the ice train in the X2000 for the Acela. And the RC4 won out, and they just essentially built that in the US with EMD as the general contractor.
Yeah, they made some minor changes to the design.
Was it? Yeah, it was EMD. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some minor changes.
It was mostly for the electrical components because it had to work in several different current outputs.
Yes. Also, the RC4 has portholes down the side, and the
no, don't tell me we missed something as cool as portholes.
Yeah, look at the AEM7 wiki page. There's the one that they were testing and it's portholes.
Oh, that looks so cool.
Personally,
so one of the museums over in Sweden just restored. I don't know if it's the one that got brought over or not into an Amtrak.
Yeah, actually,
it is the one.
The French one actually recently got restored with a close approximation of the Amtrak stripes and logo too.
Yeah.
Because Rail Force One, who is a great charter freight operator in Europe, just loves doing that shit to their locomotive, like all sorts of fun liveries to their locomotives.
Good on them. That's cool.
So yeah, both of the AEM7 test locomotives are still out there. The locomotives started service. When did they start service?
1970. No. Uh-oh. I didn't put that in the notes. Don't give me questions I don't have in the notes.
78.
Oh, I was going to say 78, but I didn't believe in myself.
In 1978, the AEM7s came into service. They replaced the GG1s as Amtrak's primary power. They weren't completely shuffled. As we all know, the GG1s were not fully replaced yet. They mostly shuffled off to New Jersey and worked in New Jersey Transit for a couple more years before they pulled the pantographs down for the last time. But yeah, the 80s were was the decade of the box. These trains these engines kept going down the Northeast Corridor. Maximum speed for something this square, 125 miles an hour. Which
it kind of blows my mind that they're capable of that with such a relatively flat front. But between these locomotives being delivered and the Amfleet coaches coming into play, that this kind of saved service on the Northeast Corridor and kind of gained the public's trust back because once they worked out initial kinks, both the Amfleets and the AEM7s were about as reliable as you could get.
Yeah. They did the tech thing of just working. Because I should also, before we move on, I should also mention that the other motive power that Amtrak had before the AEM7, because let's remember, it was the GG1, which is falling apart. And so, because the GG1s could do 120, but the problem is the GG1 might not be in one piece at that point.
Yes.
They had the
Imagine
E60,
the track wouldn't be in one piece underneath it either.
Yeah. They had the E60, which was trying to disco dance its way into the nearest field. And then they had the Bud Metroliner, which wasn't on the tracks at all because it was still at the station where it had broken down. The Bud Metroliner, as has been covered in many other podcasts, and if you're listening to this, you know about the Bud Metroliner. The Bud Metroliner basically had everything wrong with it, and it never worked. And the only reason that we care about it is that it is the reason why the Am fleet looks like that, because the Bud Metroliner, its shape became the body shells for the Am fleet cars because it was an electric multiple unit. They're probably the reason why we still don't have electric multiple units on Amtrak services, because let's not forget that both generations of Acela have power cars.
Yep.
Like,
Scared them off of EMUs forever.
Amtrak was once bitten and never again.
Well, there's also kind of a FRA rule that would have to get a little changed from what I understand.
They managed it with all the Silverliners and the multi-levels and everything. Amtrak could do it if they wanted to, but they don't.
Yeah.
We would have the world's heaviest multiple unit. It would be made out of like osmium, but they would do it.
So we've got this train. Amtrak's Colonial had 2 of these AEM7s on the front.
We haven't even mentioned the train thus far.
Oh, yeah.
This is Amtrak's train 94, the Colonial, which I have information about on a later slide.
Yeah, we'll get to that point.
The locomotives. Oh, you do it. I'm sorry. You made this slide.
It had 903 was the leading locomotive, but it also had number 900 trailing. It was second in the consist. And 900 is specialist because that's the original AEM7. And it's the one that was sent out to the testing center in Pueblo, Colorado, after Amtrak decided to go with this design, and AC over in Sweden made the first one, shipped it over to Pueblo, and that's where they trialed it. They put something like 156,000 miles on it just within the test center, and it did great.
Yeah, and you can actually see in the photo you've included that it's towing the test car on the Northeast Corridor.
Yeah, that is a photo from the testing phase still. It's also probably why the blue is still so bright there around the frame.
And I would also like to point out, if some of you, not all of you, some of you might be wondering, 900, why is that one not preserved? Well, foreshadowing is a literary device.
We're going to learn. You're going to get schooled.
Do we want to talk about the Northeast Corridors? Do we want to talk about the electricity on the Northeast Corridor?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to boil it down to this. All right, through some classic American attitude of we can't do anything the same as our neighbors, Amtrak had to make these things to run on 3 different feeds of electricity. The Pennsylvania Railroad left them with 12 kilovolts at 25 hertz, and then the New Haven left either, depending on which part you were on, either 12.5 kilovolts at 60 hertz or 25 kilovolts at 60 hertz. Well, and this locomotive had to run on all 3.
The 25 at 60 was Amtrak finishing the lineup to Boston. The New Haven just left them the 1.
Oh, no. Oh, God. This is electrical engineering stuff. This is where I need to be quiet.
Yeah, basically what happened is that electricity is made when fire makes steam.
Nope, too far back. Too much context.
Steam put through spinny thing covered in magnets. And the speed at which the spinny thing goes is called hertz. This is very simplified.
Is that because it hurts my head to think about?
No, I think the guy was named Hertz. I think it's because whoever named it needed to rent a car immediately afterwards. But
to escape from the anger that they just created.
But anyways, it depending on the hertz. That's the hertz means almost nothing. It's just for like the transmission and everything. But it also means the speed that whatever you're putting the electricity through, that spins at that speed, which is why if you've ever imported like a record player or a tape deck from Japan to America, or from Europe to America, or from America to Europe, and you plug it in through like a volt and you have it at the same voltage, it plays funny because the motor is spinning at a different hertz, so it's faster or slower. this means that the AEM 7s basically had to account for all of this, and then because when the Pennsylvania Railroad did it, electricity had just been invented, so there was no standard. The standard nowadays, for a variety of interesting reasons that we're really not in the mood to talk about, is in America it's 60 hertz or 30 hertz, depending on them, but usually transmission lines are 60 hertz. And in Europe it's 50 hertz. Or 25 hertz. I'm sorry. It's 30 and 25 or 60 and 50. Depending
we cannot do anything the same as our neighbors.
It actually is because we both invented our own standards at the same time. And the European equipment was doing 50 hertz and ours was doing 60. It's actually, again, this is way off topic, but Japan has both standards at the same time because Tokyo imported American generating equipment and, like Kyoto, imported European equipment. And so half of Japan is 60 hertz and half is 50 hertz. I'm not kidding.
Fuck's sake.
Also, this means that the GG1s, after they were developed and after they were running for 40 years, were just suddenly shoved onto the New Haven electrification, which was at a completely different, higher hertz, and just ran up to New Haven then under Penn Central and Amtrak and Conrail. And I don't know. It took us 20 minutes to try and figure out how we did this. And the answer that we have is we don't know. I assume the GG1s just suddenly got faster when they hit the New Haven electrification. If you do know, please let us know. This isn't a joke. Email us at SYDDOYWTW@gmail.com with the tagline, I saw a GG1 doing 400 miles an hour through Connecticut once. But anyways, I think now we're ready to move on. I am sorry that I took over. I actually, hand to God, did not do any research for this aside from the slides I had to do. So this is just all stuff that I know.
I think we're all pretty excited about this episode.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to people just in general because I've been stuck in the house.
More about that later.
Yes.
Let's take a look at what was behind those two AEM 7s. Yeah, ignore the big boxy thing up front.
Ignore this was the E60 that's got its windows covered in chicken wire to stop people suspending cinder blocks from the from road bridges.
Overpasses. Yeah, we need to look at the car behind it because there was a right behind the locomotives was an AM cafe. The AM fleet weren't just day coaches; they had different layouts, and that included AM cafes and AM clubs. So the first car right behind the locomotive is an AM cafe, number 20039. Next slide.
This is not a photo of 20039.
It is not. I couldn't find that one. It's the closest example I could find.
In period.
Yes.
Next one.
This is my lazy slide. There were 4 AM fleet coaches. If you have seen one, you have seen all of them. All right.
Now, I would like to point out that when I had to do a version of this for one of our episodes, I did track down photos of every coach.
I tried. A lot of these I couldn't.
I know. There's no photos of them because of foreshadowing, but also, I know.
Next slide.
Hey, an E60 again.
Then there was another E60 AM cafe. And I realized now that I copied the wrong slide. So can you go back one slide, please, Joe?
Oh, my God.
Yep, I noticed that.
So behind the second AM cafe was 4 more AM fleet coaches. And like I said, once you've seen one, you've seen them all. Now skip forward 3 slides.
Hey, an E60. Hey, an E60.
Shut up.
Hey, this is not an E60.
It is not. This is actually one of the only photos I could find of a piece of equipment that was actually involved in today's incident.
And it's Sunnyside Yard.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah.
This last car in this train that you can see in the photo is a heritage coach. I don't know which railroad Amtrak inherited it from. I didn't.
That looks like Santa Fe, but
it kind of looks Santa Fe-ish. But it's a heritage coach, number 7624. its presence will become incredibly important later. But then
Remember why I brought up hunting.
Yes. There's still one more car after that. Next slide, which was an AM Club. Again, not the car that was actually involved, but you can see it.
I like
So
how
Zach, do you
they
know the
have...
difference between the AM Club and the AM Cafe?
No, hit me with it.
All right, so an AM Cafe has coach seating either side of like the little service counter in the center.
Okay.
With AM Club has seating on one side and then like these big plushy nice club seats in a 2-1 configuration on the other side.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
That is really cool.
I'm not sure why you would have both on one train.
I think based off of what I was able to find, I think desperation was a primary factor.
I mean, yeah, this is still
No,
relatively early in Amtrak.
no, I'm not even saying because of Rainbow Fleet. I'm saying, and we'll talk about it more, but the Colonial was packed to the gills.
Yes, we'll
this
get to
is
a
also
date.
like
This is a holiday period. That's why this train was what, 1, 5, 6,
It was 12 coaches.
10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 cars long. That's big. Every other photo I could find of the Colonial was like 5 or 6 cars max.
Yeah. Well, actually, the presence of 2 AEM 7s is telling. I watched the Pentrex documentary the other night on the Northeast Corridor, and they did say in that Amtrak usually rated 1 AEM 7 for up to 6 or 7 coaches. So anything more than that, they put on 2.
That's a little vague. I don't like 6 or 7.
I can't remember if they said 6 or 7.
Okay. I thought that was like from the timetable. It's good for 6 or 7.
I think it's 6.
Throw it on a 7-car train by itself and watch it struggle to crawl out of every station.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably it. Could probably do the speed with it all, but getting it up to speed in a reasonable
Eventually it
manner.
would get there.
Yeah.
It's got trouble getting it up. Happens to us eventually.
But it was so young. That's what got me.
I also really like this photograph of what's presumably like Dearborn Yard in Chicago, because you can see the high-level coaches in the background. Or actually, no, these are the old CNW bi-levels they used for like that one train to race scene. And then you can see an old bullet end observation
car up there
with the Mars light still on. That was an old CB&Q car, wasn't it?
Probably.
Anyways, Tylenol causes autism. Can you tell? Anyways, continuing on.
Moving on.
All of our moms took lots of Tylenol when they were pregnant. Anyways, moving on. Now this is a slide that I put in. You can tell because I covered over everything that I don't have to talk about. This is Amtrak's The Colonial, Train 94. So this is not the entire schedule of the Colonial. It actually goes all the way to Boston. It's actually, if you took the Colonial from Virginia Beach as a connecting motor coach and then went to Boston, it would take you 14 hours to cover the trip.
God, no.
The Colonial actually is timetabled into Boston like 8 p.m., but the Colonial is actually a very interesting sort of story to this, which is that if you look up the Colonial, it's not actually the train that we're talking about on Wikipedia. The Colonial was a different service that I can't remember because it's not relevant to this, but this iteration of the Colonial existed very briefly in the 1980s and 1990s as the Newport News to Washington, D.C. leg of the James Whitcomb Riley, which was a C&O train that the James Whitcomb Riley is now the Cardinal, which terminates in Washington, D.C. The James Whitcomb Riley used to go from Chicago to Newport News. So,
and it got chopped up into this
via Washington, D.C. Yes, the Colonial is supposed to be the Newport News to Washington, D.C. section, but I guess at that point, because I think the Cardinal I because of how like the B&O and the C&O approached railroading, especially trying to get to like New York City, I think they had trains that went up to New York as well. So at some point, the Colonial basically got folded into the rest of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor services. So it left Newport News at 8 o'clock in the morning and went into Washington D.C., entered the Northeast Corridor, and then because at this point it was the Northeast Corridor was still just the electrified portion from Washington to New York. At that point, it would then continue on under the New Haven electrification to New Haven, and then continue on under diesel power to Boston. And it's nowadays it's part of the Northeast Regional Service. It's because they still do run Northeast Regional trains
Oh my
from
god,
Boston
I'm
to Virginia.
so lost.
There's a timetable right here. It has names of cities on it.
Am I supposed to read that? I don't.
Back me up on this, Evan.
I know how
lost in
Amtrak runs
historic
today, but the way that they kind of pieced it all together throughout the 70s and changed it to make it a little bit better it's crazy.
This is stuff I understand implicitly. There must be something wrong with me. Or Zach.
I mean, ¿por qué no los dos?
But yeah, you can see it was something between an express and a local train. It made most of the stops up the corridor.
It skips a couple.
And so it basically, and it's really funny. It like once it leaves Penn Station, it fucking crawls. It takes like 4 more hours to get to Boston. It's atrocious.
I'm surprised that they skipped Bewey Airport.
I imagine that there wasn't like a time and like there probably a scheduling conflict with the trains behind them.
Maybe.
Because you have to remember that they're running this particular schedule that I plucked this from is all of the long distance trains that went into the Northeast. So you've got the Palmetto, the Silver Star, the Cardinal, the Potomac, all these. There's also this is really bad if you are like a commuter at the time. There's also a separate page with the Northeast Corridor section schedules that also has the Colonial on it. That's like just every other train is a Metroliner. So it
I can't handle myself with having this many options for trains.
And yet one time when I tried to
I'm used to like the train comes through at this time, maybe if we don't die, if the locomotive doesn't die somewhere between here and there, and if you miss it today, it sucks till tomorrow.
Dude, the Northeast Corridor is a completely different world compared to the rest of like the Amtrak system.
Yeah, and it makes money.
It took my little freight monkey brain a little bit of time to kind of convert over to Amtrak once I got up there. Because it's absolutely nuts. You got your scheduled trains throughout the hour. Most of the trains like operate over the corridor, then extend to like other destinations, either south or kind of to the north a little bit. And
yeah, I was actually reading in the accident report. I think there was like multiple hundred train movements through a certain interlocking a day.
Yeah.
Like 500 or 600. And then on top of this, at the time, Amtrak still had mail trains.
Oh, God, I forgot. This is far enough back that they had dedicated mail trains.
So there was like 4 or 5 daily mail trains, and Conrail had the ability to run trains. Now, granted, Conrail tried to run trains through the like 5.5 hour window in which there were no passenger trains between like midnight and like 5:30 a.m. Which means that there's a period of these are all shoved into like 20 hours of the day, these like 600 trains. And then Conrail runs like 20 or 30 at night. But, and this is foreshadowing, some Conrail moves have to be done during daylight hours. So you've got even more trains going on. And this is all probably a little bit down from how the Pennsylvania Railroad ran it, because the Pennsylvania Railroad also ran full freight services up and down this line.
Yep. And I mean, what got me about it is, especially like at night when you're not running as many passenger trains, that's when like a bunch of cockroaches, scurry out from the little maintenance way bases and go and fix the fucking tracks and the catenary and the signals. And then right before the first train in the morning, they all scurry back home, clear up, make sure that everything's good to go. So that way there's like
turns on the light and makes them all run for cover again.
pretty much, dude. It is crazy the amount of maintenance you have to wait into at night.
They're all cockroaches, but instead of having like a tapered butt like a normal cockroach, it's a pointless arrow at the rear.
Yeah, and they're all wearing reflective orange.
These neon bugs with weird butts are all over the place. What is this?
Oh, I'm going to get some angry messages from some of my old coworkers, I'm sure.
Congratulations, I have diagnosed you with cockroach.
Well,
anyways.
You ready to go on?
Now we have to go on to some dipshits.
We have to go on to a couple of dipshits. We have two guys to talk about, Ricky Gates and Edward Cromwell. If you are a railroader who is at all informed about the history of the industry, that name Ricky Gates should have put the hair up on the back of your neck. But we're going to talk. We're going to talk first about Edward Cromwell because very little is known about him. I'm going to breeze through him fairly quickly. He was a 33-year-old brakeman for Conrail. He hired on with the Penn Central in April of 1973 and was promoted to a conductor 3 years later in 76. When you're promoted from a brakeman to a conductor, their contract allowed you to work either job, and roles and responsibilities and pay vary depending on which position you worked.
I love that he's 34 in this picture because he looks about 57.
Yeah. Oh, well,
both of these guys look 20 years older.
You know what? I'll give it to him. Cromwell looks a little bit older. Ricky Gates looks a lot older, and we'll talk about why.
Ricky Gates looks like an old shoe.
Kind of. So when the Penn Central went kaput in 1976, Cromwell was automatically transferred to Conrail. And because Conrail operated on the Amtrak right-of-way in the Northeast Corridor, Conrail crews were required to take Amtrak rules examinations as part of their continued employment. Cromwell scored okay on his two most recent tests in June and August of 1986, scoring 95% and 85% respectively. His most recent physical examination in June of 1986 was unremarkable and did not include a drug screen because that was not legally required at this time. Now I'd like to quote directly from the NTSB report. The brakeman's 1986 work record indicated that he was used by Conrail only during summer vacation, hunting season, and holiday periods. He did not work for Conrail from January 1st to June 13th, September 30 to November 5, and November 21 to December 22, a total of 231 days out of 1986. According to the brakeman, he did not have a second job, but relied on unemployment compensation when not actively employed by Conrail. During 1986, the brakeman worked the equivalent of 60 days.
I also have a direct quote from the NTSB from a separate section. The Conrail brakeman's work record strongly suggested that he would not hesitate to lay off from work when it suited him to do so. So
yeah,
this guy
apparently
has
unemployment was enough.
This guy has like a work ethic that the Europeans would find lacking.
This guy figured out how to game the system, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. If he could survive on that,
something welfare queen.
Well, you know, the days he did work, you mentioned later.
Yeah,
what he makes. We'll talk about that. It kind of explains how he may have been able to afford this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Frankenstein over here. Ricky Gates is much more widely known. Yeah. Oh, fuck off.
I gotcha.
You're right, and I hate it. Ricky Gates is much more widely known and hated. He was hired by Penn Central in March of 1973 as a brakeman, but instead of going up to conductor, Gates decided to go to engine service in 1974 and became a fireman. What's a fireman in the diesel era? Well, it's the guy that keeps the seat in the left side of the cab warm.
And he pays union dues too. That's the other thing.
Yep, that's right. By March of 1976, Gates had completed Conrail's engineer training program because he was kind of in the middle of that when Conrail became a thing. Fast forward to 1985, he had passed his most recent physical examination with no issues and, again, no drug test. I'm guessing the underlying problems hadn't revealed themselves yet because at this point, Gates self-reportedly smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day.
Oh, that's why he looks like that.
That is why he looks like that. My lungs hurt just thinking about that.
His personality must be so predisposed to addiction that you could probably get him into like every MLM ever.
Yeah. I've mentioned on this show before that I used to smoke, and to this day, every now and then I still get the urge and I'll bum a cigarette off of somebody, and I pay for that for like 2 days after that. I cannot imagine living in a worse level of that constantly from smoking, what would it be, 80 cigarettes a day? I don't know when this guy stopped to breathe.
I don't. You know that thing that brass players do where they circular breathe through their nose while exhaling at the same time. He must have done that. Like what I think he does is he just breathes out the cigarette smoke. The smoke comes off the cigarette into his lungs, through his nose. So he's like, it like goes through like in a question mark shape almost.
See, personally, I was thinking about this clip I saw of the country musician Waylon Jennings walking out on stage, smoking a cigarette, and he picks up his guitar and then wedges the guitar or the cigarette underneath one of the tuning knobs on the guitar and says, "I need you to stay, or you're going to stay right there, little buddy. I need you to breathe." And then plays a song and then pulls the cigarette right back out and keeps smoking.
Oh, fuck me.
So being a nerd, I did a little bit of math. Assuming that he's like doing other things 8 hours a day, at least 16 hours a day, that's
How long
960
does it take an
minutes.
cigarette to burn? I actually don't know that.
How mad am I
depends
when
on-
I'm smoking it?
Assume that it's your normal function.
10 minutes, maybe.
What?
Oh, I'm a slow smoker.
Oh, dude, you're one of those that's just gonna like never ash and like leave the.
No, I ash. I hate it when it falls off when I'm not ready for it.
Oh,
What's your math?
No,
What are you doing math on?
This is
How long?
every 12 minutes a cigarette.
Oh my god. No,
I mean, he might as well like chain smoke his way through the day.
He definitely
so
lights a cigarette off the last one.
Oh,
He goes through 4 packs of cigarettes a day and 1
How do you
pack of
carry
matches a
4
year.
packs on you unless your grip is just full of cartons of cigarettes?
okay.
He's definitely stopping the train at the first milepost in Delaware and walking over to buy cigarettes without sales taxes.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's like,
you
I
know
got
it.
the sales tax. Probably.
He's like there's like 4 trains that have to divert around him because he's marching off to the Delaware cigarette store.
No, you know what it is? He's probably calling the dispatcher and be like, "Hey, you want to hold us at this interlocker, right?" Because it's like a 3-minute walk from the nearest gas station in Delaware.
He goes in and buys his grip is actually just a carton of cigarettes with enough room for his rule book.
Yep.
Like he's got it on microfilm, so it's small enough to fit in there.
Jesus.
Well, I'm thinking. My thought is that smoking raises your blood pressure, so he's like constantly on the edge. I'm wondering if he just like his break between each cigarette is like 10 minutes, and he lights one, and he's so high strung that he just sucks one down in like one breath. Talks out the window, waits 2 minutes, and then repeats.
What his blood pressure? If you cut him, he would like geyser. I hadn't thought of that, but like he gets a paper cut and it squirts the brakeman in the face across the cab.
Oh, God.
It's an offensive weapon at that point.
He cuts an artery by accident and blasts a hole in the wall.
How'd you do that? Cut myself shaving. I meant the hole in your wall.
Yes.
Cut myself shaving.
Well,
Jesus.
I think that plays into the next point.
Yeah, no shit.
So he was actually fairly well versed in the rules. His last rules exam was on July 24th of 1986, and he passed with a 98%. He knew the rules, if nothing else. He knew how he was going to mess up, I guess. However, he was known to be, quote, overconfident and surly, end quote, with the train masters. His coworkers described him as friendly, but the bartender at a tavern near Bayview Yard, where Gates most frequently worked, said that he was an obnoxious drunk and could get quite a temper after drinking.
And he after events that we have foreshadowed, he did say that most of his day was spent at drinking, and like he did like go to like he didn't just go to one bar.
He loved
We're
bar
talking
hopping.
about what's the name of the guy from the bus crash one? The
guy in the pickup truck. I don't remember
Yeah.
his name.
Oh fuck, what's him? We're talking about this level of social acceptance.
Reference our earlier episode. Yeah, it was just an okay thing to drink all the time.
Yeah, we're dealing, and he was. There's some other stuff too, but that's later. That's later.
Yes.
We talk about that.
Ricky was no stranger to the police or the booze. By December of 1986, he had been convicted of 12 traffic offenses, including 9 speeding tickets. His driver's license was suspended twice, once in 1972 and once in 1985. On December 5th of 1986, that's not the date for the episode, but I want you to remember that date. December 5, 1986. Gates left a tavern absolutely plastered, got in his car, and then almost immediately blew through both a stop sign and a red light in front of a cop. The police pulled him over, performed field sobriety tests, including a breathalyzer on which Gates blew a .12. That's not a mispronunciation. .12. He is wasted, absolutely fucking plastered. And for the DWI, he was fined $1,000 in order to undergo counseling.
How much is that in 1986? That's got to be like $5,000.
Ooh,
He
let's
might have
find
to
out.
pick up 2 whole shifts.
Man, like an extra 3 days? Maybe?
He might have to go to work. The horror of it. No, that's Ed Cromwell.
$3,046.
Jesus.
That's still nothing for a DWI.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gates's work record was also less than clean. In December of 1974, he was suspended from service after he passed a stop signal. That's a pretty big thing. I can't believe he was still in service, period, after that. In November of 1984, he was suspended for 7 days after speaking to a crew dispatcher in a, quote, belligerent and threatening manner, end quote. Maybe that was the dispatcher that wanted to run him past that first interlocking over the Delaware border so he couldn't stop and get his cigarettes and he was out. Maybe. I don't know. And finally, he was reprimanded in March of 1986 for engaging in an apparent unauthorized work stoppage, which could have been something like a sick out or a work slowdown. But because we have the Railway Labor Act, any sort of work action that is not a strike after you go through the 300 hoops to get to the strike is an unauthorized work stoppage. Whatever it was, we don't really know because Gates quit before he could go to investigation.
Yeah, I wonder why he quit.
We'll
find
out.
I would just like to say, can you imagine how belligerent and threatening you have to be to get suspended for it in 1984?
Oh yeah, what do you have to say to that dispatcher?
He had to have like actually pointed a gun at him. Like that grip is like is like a fucking Marlboro ad. It's cigarettes, a gun, and a rule book. Plus, I guess the reverser handle.
Maybe, I don't know if it was common to store that on the locomotives at that point.
He had a reverser handle.
Probably.
Whether he
I think
was
everybody did.
or not is an entirely different story.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to bet there was, because that seems to have been a tradition. You graduate engineer school, you get a reverser. I got a reverser when I graduated engineer school. You know what happened after I used it for 3 weeks?
It broke.
It broke. The flashlight on it broke off.
The what?
It had a little flashlight on the end of it.
Oh, you got a little cheap flashlight.
Yeah. It was great until it broke. And everybody, it didn't even break in a way that was very visibly broken, but nobody can put it back together the right way.
Oh.
But yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, he probably had that reverser handle just like down in the very bottom collecting dirt and grime. So, all right. Next up, who's this jolly fellow? We're going to talk about that Amtrak train. What was it, 94?
Yes.
Yes. The engineer on that was Jerome Evans, who is pictured here.
Everyone called him Jerry.
Yeah. There was an unknown conductor. There was also unknown assistant conductor number 1, unknown assistant conductor number 2, and unknown assistant conductor / flagman number 3.
Plus 5 passenger service agents as well.
Yeah, you gotta, man all those cafe cars.
Yeah, all 3 of them.
I think there was 12 crew on the train in total.
Yes. But we don't know anything about any of them because they're absolutely not involved with what happened here, apart from trying to clean up the mess that they were suddenly thrown into. So all the conductors, assistant conductors, that one that's also a flagman, and onboard services, as far as we know, they're fine. They're good people. That's all you need to know about them. It sucks that they were put in this. But Jerry Evans was 35 years old. He hired on with the Penn Central in November of 1972. Did their engineer training program, graduated in January of 1974, and he made the jump to go to Amtrak instead of staying with Conrail, and he did so at some point in 1983. The last bit that we have about him was that there is a physical exam, and he got a drug test for that physical exam in June of 1986. Amtrak started doing drug tests early, but nothing showed up in his system on that drug test because he was relatively boring. He drank occasionally. He may have smoked a pack a day. There was nothing abnormal about that in 1987.
Look at how young he looks compared to the other two.
He looks shockingly close to me.
This is what happens when you have joy in your heart. Is you join, you sign up with Amtrak, you get a nice cushy job driving 120 miles an hour down the Northeast Corridor, and you go home to your family and your beautiful wife every night, as opposed to you sign up for, you don't go to Amtrak, you stay at Conrail, you smoke a carton of cigarettes every second, you drive drunk to the terminal because you think it's the bar. And you threaten your direct supervisor with a handgun because he didn't let you go to the Delaware to buy cigarettes. Yep. This is like the two opposite sides of the same coin.
Okay, I have to give them a little benefit of the doubt. Jerry Evans, as we'll find out, this picture is pre-incident. Ricky Gates and Edward Cromwell, those pictures were very much post-incident.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't do him any favors. So Jerry was mostly a good employee. He was noted to be a skilled and knowledgeable engineer. He didn't have a perfectly clean record. He was reprimanded by Conrail in 1978 for a violation of restricted speed. And what that means is that I had to copy the rule from NORAC because I know the G-Core version of the rule, but NORAC requires...
What's NORAC?
Northern Railway something
Northeast Northeast
MOREC
operating
is
rules.
the rule book up there.
What is it? Northeast Operating Rules Advisory Committee.
That sounds right. Yeah, that's it. They have their own special rule book, but rule number 80 says movement at restricted speed. Movements made at restricted speed must comply with the following requirements. A, controlling the movement. Movement must be controlled to permit stopping within 1/2 the range of vision short of other train or railroad equipment occupying or fouling the track. Obstructions on or fouling the track, switches not properly lined for movement, derail set in the derailing position, employees working in the foul of the track, the end of track, or any signal requiring a stop. I'm going to paraphrase the rest. You can't go faster than 20 miles an hour at most, and you have to be on the lookout for broken rail and misaligned track. So he either ran through a switch that wasn't lined for him, or ran over a derail that was still up, or if a manager decided to test him, they can put up a simulated obstruction on the track. It's this red sign that says stop on it, and you're supposed to be able to stop short of it. He may have run over the sign, but that was 9 years before this incident. He was still fairly early on in his career. I could see somebody getting a little complacent and making that mistake, and it seemed like he learned from it. Except he learned about complying with restricted speed. Because then he was also reprimanded by Amtrak in 1984 for going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit in a curve that had a lower speed restriction. This was a point of contention within Amtrak because a lot of the managers didn't like to test their engineers or check their speeds because they knew that speed restrictions were being violated regularly, and it kept the trains moving and it kept the public happy, and nothing had really happened because of that. So they just kind of let it go and actively argued against doing testing on complying with the speed. There is a whole section in this report just about that. It was a very different time.
Yeah, safety had only just been invented by
That's right.
friend of the podcast, Richard Milhouse Nixon.
That's right.
Who also invented Amtrak and Conrail and the EPA.
And the internet.
Like I cannot stress this enough.
No, that was Al Gore.
Richard Nixon nationalized the railways, invented the EPA, and made workplace safety, while Jimmy Carter deregulated the airlines.
That's right. Now, outside of work, Ricky had a bit of a lead foot. He was
Jerry, not
God.
Ricky.
I said Ricky. I'm sorry, Jerry. I know how dare I besmirch his name by calling him by the bad guy in this episode. Jerry had been cited for speeding in his personal automobile 11 times between 1969 and 1984.
I mean, that's like 15 years.
Yeah. That's still a lot of speeding tickets.
Okay, look.
Okay, Leadfoot, you going to justify this?
You get a lawyer, you get it taken off. My bigger question is, did Amtrak not check? I was actually going to ask this about Ricky Gates, too. Like, I would think that these would be, like, a disqualifying thing to have, like, a train license. I don't know what sort of licensing you need.
Nope. At this point, nope.
Does it matter now?
Driving record? Yes, it does. Okay. It very much matters now.
Oh, yeah, it matters now.
At the time, the record of your driver's license was 100% separate from your railroad career. They didn't care as long as you could get to work. Jerry was legally arrested on the day of the incident. He went off duty at 8:10 p.m. the night prior, went on duty 11:30 a.m. on the day in question. However, his wife said that he went to bed at 2 a.m. and woke up at 8 a.m. to report for this assignment. 6 hours isn't a whole lot of sleep, but it's better than several people we've talked about before. And also, I've been there, done that. It sucks.
And it didn't affect anything that he did.
No. It really, this poor bastard really got roped into this situation.
Yeah. People who were not at fault, and it's just a picture of this guy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
all of the conductors, if I could find pictures of them.
Yeah.
But now you know who and what we're playing with. Let's talk about the where a little bit. And this is why Evan is here to join us today. Oh, God, it's
Hi,
got crabs.
everybody.
No, it doesn't. Shut up. That's not on the screen
Shh.
yet.
It's Maryland. It has to.
Oh,
Look, if you
All
look
right.
hard enough, I'll bet you find them. But I see it right there. Chase, Maryland. It has to have crabs.
I mean, sure, if they want to fuck dirty like that, that's their business. Whatever.
So, yep,
Which
Chase,
kind of
Maryland
crabs
is
are we
where
talking about?
we're going to be looking at today. So, this is on the northeast quarter. It's about 14 miles, kind of north of Baltimore. It's enough space to get your train up to speed and whatnot.
I have
And
a
this is
question, Evan. Do you want me to put whatever this song is, Morning Wood? No, Morning Mood.
sure if we can do that.
We can't, but okay. Which
You know, that's the
Get
one that
it in
starts out with a
post.
little like. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
okay.
Oh, isn't that the theme song from our favorite game from childhood, Peggle?
What?
I don't know.
Neither of you played. God, somebody in the comments back me up.
Anyways, so the sun rises upon this nice little tiny community of Chase, Maryland, which is just kind of out there. It's in a little peninsula. There's no real way to get there, but it's full of like these Maryland style rednecks that love to fish and hunt and do other kind of crap like that. But the little bootstrappy village is kind of isolated because on one side of it you have confluence of what's called the Gunpowder River with what is it, Saltpeter Creek.
Jesus Christ, these chemical nerds. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and it's filled with.
Do they
Go
meet
ahead and
with
hit it.
charcoal? Do they meet with charcoal stream anywhere or any of the other
No, it
ingredients?
goes in the Chesapeake. Sorry, but it would be better if it was like called Flashbang or something like that. At the, but it's filled with Maryland's number one predator, the Chesapeake blue crab. So unless you get a boat or something like that, I would not wade out into those shallow waters. But anyways, to the other side, the only way to get over to this Chase, Maryland is two roads. So you have Eastern Ave, which confusingly named comes up from the south. And then you have Ebenezer Road, which comes in from the west. And Ebenezer Road has an overhead bridge over the railroad tracks kind of at the south end of town there. And that's important because the railroad actually cuts the community in half all the way through. And the only way from one side of the tracks to the other, especially after about the 1980s when they did all the high speed improvements on this line, would be through that overhead bridge at the south side of town.
Yeah, because there were level crossings on the NEC until like the 90s.
Yes.
And just not anymore.
Did it
And what
really
they-
last that long?
There were like 5.
Yeah. Dude,
And
there's still some up in like
Connecticut.
New England.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Connecticut, there's still a couple, but up there, the because it's the old New Haven routing, and the New Haven are godless people. The routing is really bad, so the trains are doing like 40 or 50. But yeah, no,
Jesus.
you can.
No, it's on like a 125 segment, but you got to go down to 90 to do the crossing, I think. So
I thought there was
that's-
one segment too where where like Acellas were crossing at like 30 or something because there was a curve
I
by a ferry dock or something. We're not.
that's downtown New London. But yeah, where they shoehorned in the railroad into like a little fishing village that had been there since the beginning of time. But no, anyways, where were you? Oh yeah, so Ebenezer Road basically bisects the or Ebenezer Road is the only way to get from one side of the tracks to the other in this nice little community. And what's interesting about the railroad there is to the north you have this nice long tangent over a 2-track bridge over all the crabs waiting to kill you in the Gunpowder River. To the south, though, you have 4 tracks into this long sweeping curve that lasts about 2 miles. And they all come together right there at what's called gun-pow interlocking, which is highlighted in red there on that slide. And this is where we'll go to the next slide. And what's interesting about gun-pow interlocking is
wait, real quick.
What?
Why is the interlocking called gun pow
Because they
when
ran out
it's
of
gunpowder river?
they ran out of letters.
Well, you know, who
Oh, I
wants to
forgot the
say
budget was tight at the
gunpowder?
letter factory.
Oh, for the sign factory? Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I mean, it's sort of like, you know, back in the old days, they couldn't afford pixels either. This was like the Pensy trying to save money by not using letters.
True.
But what's the actual reason? I'm sorry, we interrupted you.
Oh, I don't know. Well,
Oh.
to make things even more confusing, so this area used to be 2 tracks all the way through, and it went to 4 tracks a couple miles south at what they used to call MB Tower, and it's just the 2 letters MB. And that's back from the days when you would use a telegraph to communicate everywhere, so you could start the little message for MB Tower with just MB, and then tell the
MB
operator
as
there.
in Mike Bravo?
Yes.
Huh, okay.
But yeah, so in the 1940s, when World War II traffic picked up, they were like, "Ah, shit, we need to extend the 4-track all the way up to as far as we can, and not, have to rebuild that bridge over the Chesapeake with all the crabs in it." So they extended all 4 tracks up to what they called gun-pow interlocking. By this time, you could do remote signals and whatnot. So they didn't build a tower. Instead, they just added this equipment to control this to, where was it? Edgewood Tower, which is about 8 miles north of this situation. But the tracks that are highlighted in red there were typically used for the high-speed passenger trains. And the tracks in gray were typically used for the lower speed freight trains through here. And that's because all the traffic that's going south towards Baltimore is going to go off to kind of the east side of the railroad into Bayview Yard. So once we get down into the 1970s, Amtrak is kind of taking over control of the Northeast Corridor, and they start pouring money into improving the speeds on this line. Matter of fact, 2 weeks before this incident happened, they actually upgraded the speeds in this area from 80 miles per hour to 125. So it wasn't even in the timetable yet. It was just a bulletin order. So I thought that was interesting. But
It's quite a
the new
speed improvement.
yeah, it is.
I'm sure that'll cause no problems.
No problems whatsoever. But
We
as
won't
part
regret
of
this. It won't. It also won't cause any confusion for equipment restrictions, I'm sure.
Oh no, none whatsoever. But as a part of this rearrangement of the interlocking, they went through and changed it out so that way mainline or the high-speed train traffic or for passenger trains would stay on 2 and 3 track. So 2 track is your normal northbound, 3 track is typically southbound traffic. But this put all the slow-moving freight trains over on 1 and the newly named A track, which Zach loves. So that way you could go down and won't have to cross over any of the mainline tracks to get into or out of Bayview Yard down in Baltimore.
You high and mighty railroad engineers have no clue how hard it is for a young and budding conductor to figure out which track is which when it starts to follow a pattern, but then all of a sudden there's a letter over here. You have number tracks and then it goes to a letter track. What?
This is like me in algebra class. Who the fuck put these letters here?
Yeah. We don't need.
Would you prefer a 0 track, or would that be like dividing by 0 in your brain?
Kind of, yes.
Why
0 track would make more sense.
I have a bigger question. Why couldn't we have just numbered it 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, it was before, right? But to continue 2 and 3 along, so that way you don't have to have a number change in the track, they just extended 2 and 3.
You can just do that.
No.
Okay.
But you already shifted which track was which number wise.
Exactly.
So you okay. I am not about to argue with a bunch of engineers from 50 years ago.
This is that same thing I was talking about of worst thing ever that's going to happen versus no it won't. This is our same argument again.
Yep.
But
we should get Gareth on so he can so Evan and Gareth can just talk at us and we can go no.
No, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, no. Zach's brain would hurt.
I'll tell you right now, you better bring some diagrams because I cannot picture things in my head.
Well, speaking of the diagram, one of the interesting things they did here is since 2-track, the normal track for northbound passenger trains got shifted over. As you come around that long sweeping curve to the south and hit this tangent, your kind of view ahead is actually looking down the other track.
Oh
And if we
boy.
go to the next slide,
No.
I didn't know that. I also, can I just say, I really like how you call it 2-track, despite the fact that it's labeled as track 2. Like, come on.
No,
What?
that checks. That checks. I get that.
I don't like that.
There's a lingo there.
Why don't you write it as 2-track then?
Okay,
Because
fine.
the guy that writes out the track names on the map is different than the guy that actually names them out in the field.
True. I mean, I could just put a number on there and an A hanging out in space.
Leave that A hanging out for everybody to wonder what the hell that's for.
But anyways, so what's going on in this slide is over on the right-hand side, you have, this is looking inside of gunpowder interlocking. You got the home signal for northbound traffic there, but we're looking south. So this would be the opposite direction of what's going on in today's situation. But 1-track and 2-track fold together because 2-track is shifting over from where it used to be into the old 1-track bay. And then they just fold 1-track into it here. So pretty quickly after those signals, those 2 tracks immediately come together. And that's the point I want to make on that one. And if you look over on the left-hand side, this is actually looking at what's called the advance, or the signal before the controlled signal for the interlocking. But this is inside of that long sweeping curve that's about 2 miles long. So you have 3-track, 2-track, 1-track, and A. So our northbound passenger train today will be on 2-track. The other one will be on 1-track there. So you can just get an idea of how limited your sight is all the way ahead
So
as you're
wait,
going through there.
on that previous slide, that little bit of angle on the 2-track and the 3-track, that's is that the 2 mile long curve?
No.
So
Here, go back to slide 18.
Oh, okay. No. I see it now. Okay. I get how it connects. Okay.
Yeah, so you got that long sweeping curve. You go underneath the overhead bridge there. And in fact, on 20, if you hit it, there will be an animation for a little arrow pointing out where that overhead bridge is for Ebenezer Road.
Yep, I saw that.
Ooh.
There you go.
Oh.
But yeah. So that gives you an idea of like you round the corner, you go underneath the bridge, and then you have about half a mile to see the signals for the interlocking.
That should be plenty, right?
Oh, but 125 miles per hour, man.
Well, you've already would have gotten the advanced signal and the cab signal.
Yep. So the way this works, So going back,
everybody's cab signals work, right?
Well, everybody looks at the signals when they come up on them.
Right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure they do. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're not making a sandwich or anything.
And I mean, it's not like because the turnout there is so close to the home board, things wouldn't change. You get a lot of time if something happened.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that is a really close position now that I think about it.
Yeah, because basically the 2 tracks are coming together. Just
for that speed, that is drastically close.
Like if you pull right up to the signal, you actually are almost on the kink from 1-track to 2-track.
Yeah. Yeah, they did put that little kink there in 1-track, and 8-track kind of blows out a little bit.
The only place I think I have seen a signal that close to the switch it actually controls is where a 10 mile an hour yard track joins up on a 70 mile an hour main line. But it's from the yard track. So
how long is the actual like track in this picture? Like, is it 100 feet, 200 feet?
What, from the frog to the
from
signal?
where you're standing to where the actual signal is? Is it like
that can't be that far, a couple hundred feet maybe?
Because I'm trying to think. NS has some that are like that, but they're on like passing sidings and things like that.
Yeah,
when I worked there, you want to have at least like a good 200 feet between the insulated joints to the signal.
Yeah, I've seen some that are almost that close.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot that aren't.
Let's see.
Yeah, I love when you can tell how old an interlocking is just based on how it's designed. The track in there may be new, but that design sure ages it.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that too. Like at work we're looking about replacing the electrical substation that we have, and if you have an old one like we do, it's like, you know, a 10 by 20 cube of fence and then a transformer in the middle of it. And if we want to do more than that and replace something, we basically have to like quintuple its size.
So the solution is don't change it out. Just keep band-aiding any issue you have with your current substation, and nothing will go wrong.
We can't increase the we need to increase the amount of electricity going into the building.
Have you tried spinning it faster?
The transformer doesn't spin, Zach. The transformer just sits
Not with
there
that attitude, it won't.
It just sits there menacingly full of oil. And that's all it does. It buzzes at you like a mosquito.
Do you know they make really pretty colors when they explode?
No, because you're not supposed to look at it.
Well, I wasn't trying to, but I looked over at a telephone pole and the transformer that was on it exploded.
But
all right. I think we need to go to the next slide.
Explosion is like orange, and like then you die.
I think we need to stop, which is what these signals are.
Oh no, he won't. No, don't get. God damn this.
Sorry, no, that's actually
such a good time.
It's a restricting signal.
Yeah, it is.
But no, this is the
I just
the
have to
advanced
slow
signals.
my roll.
Yeah. Well, you read out what restricting speed is, so that's what you got to operate under after receiving these signals. But the main reason I want to point this out is because you got the Pensy style position light signals. This is a more modern picture took when I was on a job site out there a couple of years ago. But imagine those were just the three white lights across the top.
Yeah, did we explain how Pensy signals worked yet?
Oh no,
I thought that was coming up.
I'm seeing the narrative segment, which is going. I mean, we.
Oh yeah, here I'll give you. I can sum it down. The Pennsylvania Railroad, despite being God's greatest railroad, got everything right except for signals. While the rest of the world moved from semaphores to colored lights, the Pennsylvania Railroad was a railroad of traditions. So they said, let's just make the semaphores lights. And they took that as literally as they could. So they would have these signals that would show a series of three lights either across, at an angle, or vertically. And that if you had multiple heads on that signal, you could combine them in different ways to get different aspects. But that was it. What was it called? Position signals?
Position light signals.
Yeah. Across was looked like the semaphore signal for stop. A horizontal one was like the semaphore signal for an approach. Vertical was a clear. So instead of having easy to read colors, you had to think about which way the line was pointing and what that meant for you.
And they're still around to this day on Norfolk Southern and CSX tracks.
Oh, not so much CSX, but especially like up in the Northeast, Conrail did a good job of replacing them all with New York Central style signals. Really, Amtrak kept them. There is some Norfolk and Western stuff that's left around, but most of that got changed out when they went through and did positive train control.
I
send that photo directly to Joe so that he could flash it up on the screen. I see what you're doing there. Send that directly to Joe. He'll flash it up on the screen in post.
What have you done?
Okay.
What are
Google Slides doesn't work that well. You can't get sneaky with it.
It's not instant.
I don't. You
Nothing.
need to tell me when you're trying to do something.
He has a signal guide for us, so we can read the awful position light signals.
Anyways, how about this? We'll throw in there a link to this webpage that really does a good job of explaining position light signals. once you understand the evolution of them from being like a replacement for semaphores into what they morphed into today, it really makes a lot of sense.
Oh, this is all Web 1.0. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep, that website is
Yes,
horrible,
please.
but it does a great job.
Hold on.
Anyways.
Which one of these is the Pennsylvania Railroad one? The aspects. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I really like slow approach and restricting because it looks like they're doing the safety dance.
The safety dance?
Something. Aha, here we go. Yes. Open image in new tab. Yes. There we go. Observe the. Shut the fuck up.
So, hold on. You got the signal up now? The little thing?
I have it on a web page. I'm screen recording this, Evan. Don't.
I know.
Silence.
Oh, that's a good thing to point out, though, because the aspects that you get in the field from those big 4-foot diameter signal heads are then repeated inside the cab, and that's what that smaller little icon is.
I really enjoy the ones with R on them, as if that's going to help or anything. Oh, those are supposed to be red.
Yeah, so Pensy, like back in the 40s, was like, hey, maybe we can like change the stop aspect to red lights. And so they replaced those outside two bulbs, as seen in like slide 21, with red. But all the other aspects were shown in those like yellowish lights that were supposed to be like visible through fog.
But then why wouldn't the page from the rule book that shows you the signal aspects just show them red? It's in full color.
What I personally enjoy is we're all looking at this thing that says signal aspects of the Pennsylvania Railroad, right? I personally like the take siding and phase break signals, which it explicitly says these aspects are not shown in the rule book.
God.
Also, the phase break signal just looks fucking biblically correct.
So, yeah, there's only two places that I know of where they have those phase breaks, and it was just because you have different dams that were feeding the system. And so it was just to make sure that you didn't like bridge the gap between those two different systems that were
Pennsylvania Railroad was such an advanced operation that it really.
Oh, they were.
Pennsylvania Railroad is operating in like 30/20 at this point. Like,
but yeah, you had to drop your pans and coast through the dead section so that way you didn't accidentally bridge it.
Better ways to do this.
Every time someone tells me something about the Pennsylvania Railroad, I become more and more enamored with the belief that the New York Central was better. Like, if the New York Central had invented the GG1, they would be the best railroad on the face of the earth.
I'm not looking at this page of the rule book anymore. This hurts my head.
Apparently,
all right, moving on.
You still have to learn these for the NS Signal School, and you can fail them really easily.
I wonder why.
So that's the weird thing. Whenever I started with NS, it was like 2012, and there was like on the engineering side, depending on what territory you're in, you would either take like the G-Core style signals, or you could take the Pensy style signals. And like typically you only took one or the other depending upon what your territory was.
Which one did you take?
I always did the southern style signals because that's easy. It's just like, all right, diverging, clear, whatnot. But the Pensy style signals will give you the speed that you're supposed to take through a diverging route. So
yeah, okay.
You have your maximum authorized speed, right? And then you have limited speed, which will be 40 for freight, 45 for passenger. And that's the speed through a number 20 turnout.
Zach, I've got to ask you, are you still on the railroad signals page?
I am.
Just scroll down until you see the way strange one.
The what?
Just Control F, way strange.
Oh, this page is so huge. Yeah, I'm.
Oh, that weird thing. Yeah, that's at dock.
That's it. The entrance to Northumberland Yard.
That That is cursed.
It looks
So
like
they only use those
it,
in like places where you have to mush the two signal heads together.
it looks mutated.
So it does look cursed, but whenever you think about like how the aspects light up one over the other, it works.
Oh no, that's
Does it
that sounds
is
like
it
it's going to
still,
be the subject of a future episode.
is it still
Sure.
there? Can we make sure it's not?
The ones at Dock are gone. Maybe the ones here at North Emblem might still be, but I doubt it.
This is
Hell
just
no.
Oh, there's two
That's
of
the
them
kind of thing
next
that
to each
NS would
other.
be like salivating to replace when PTC funded signal replacements.
There's two of them next to each other, and they have different numbers of lights. I don't like it.
Signal fuckery is
And what I really
bad.
like is that the Pensy owned the N and W, so the Norfolk and Western had to do this bullshit too.
Well, realize that the Norfolk and Western decided like, fuck you, we're not going to use the middle light on the top signal head.
Oh god. More variety.
Yeah, even more
The
variety.
phase break signals are so fucking cursed.
It looks
Oh,
like a
I
little
don't.
explosion. All right.
Many pure Pensy signals can
Do you
still be found. That implies that there's anything pure about this.
do you think it's time for the intermission?
I do think it's
Yes.
time for the intermission. What?
Do
Oh,
you wanna-
you
do
put
you
it in. You put it in.
do you wanna-
Oh,
Do you want to tell everybody what you're about to do?
okay. Hold on. Where's the GIF? Is the GIF in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went on vacation. I discussed this in the previous episode. Now, I'm going to be very brief here. I went on vacation to England, I went on vacation to France, and then I went to Italy. Europe, I don't know what you're doing, but please stop it, especially the Italians. I find your society very strange and have many problems with it that we do not have time for me to get into. And then on the last day of the vacation, literally 12 hours before I was supposed to get up and fly home at 6 o'clock in the morning, I slipped in the pool at the hotel, and I felt, because I was on like one of those metal ladders that you climb out of the pool in, and I fell backwards into the pool so I didn't bust my face open on the ladder as I fell. And I put my foot out to catch myself, and the water wasn't deep enough to fully absorb the force of me falling into the water, and I broke my foot.
Which
So,
means
which means that I now have to go to the bathroom using an office chair to wheel myself down the carpeted hallway of my house to the bathroom, because I suffered what is known as a Jones fracture, which means that I cannot put weight on my foot in any way. And if you think that this is bad, I would like for you to ponder while I go to the bathroom. Trying to go to the bathroom in a 767 while your crutches have been taken from you and put in the front coat closet. because they took my crutches every time I got on the airplane. Granted, they were crutches that I got at like the Italian pharmacy in Italy, which, by the way, I want to say this. So Fox News says a lot of things about Europe that are mostly wrong. Okay? But they do occasionally talk about European healthcare and socialized medicine. And I was prepared to dismiss that as just right-wing bullshit. However, in the case of the Italian medical system, especially near Naples, they are in fact entirely correct. I don't know how you people survive minor injuries. I was off. They x-rayed me, told me to come back in the morning for a boot. They didn't have anyone in the pharmacy now because the pharmacy was 9 to 5, clearly, because no one ever gets sick. But then they wheeled me into the room where the doctor was. The doctor didn't even stand up from her computer. And they tried to give me a shot of a blood thinner that I didn't know the name of because it wasn't in English. And I couldn't figure out in like the 7 seconds before they were trying to inject me with it. And they hadn't asked my medical history at all. So for the low price of $154, they could have just killed me. 154 euros, I'm sorry. They could have just killed me. because they thought I might get a DVT, and so I needed a blood thinner, but you can't just give someone a blood thinner shot without asking their medical history, because what if I had something wrong with me that might have required some other medication that reacted poorly with a blood thinner? Like,
Like
I'm
they'll
not
give it about a
crazy
week.
here.
Maybe they'll try something else.
Also, I would like to just say this. I tried to pay these people because they handed me a bill before I left, but I had travel insurance. So I was like, okay, I'll get the travel insurance to pay this. No. Long story short, with the insurance, I have to pay and then get reimbursed, but the payment portal is made by Italians, so it doesn't work. So I have to figure out how to pay these people. I might have to send an international wire, like I'm trying to buy drugs in the 80s or something like that. Like I'm fucking Pablo Escobar negotiating a deal with the mafia. I have to send a wire transfer.
It's a good thing it's still socially acceptable to hate the Italians.
I am Italian. That's the worst part. I want nothing to do with these people now. What the fuck is this?
Oh, this is your kin, bud.
Yeah, I know. I'm not thrilled about this at all.
Well, why don't we take a break?
Yes.
Back in 5?
Don't rush me.
Oh, okay, fair.
I'll be back.
Well, how about this? If he doesn't get back in 5 minutes, Zach, we can tell the alternate history version of how his foot got broken in Italy.
You can do that anyways. I don't do that anyways. I don't care. I'll listen to it when I do the edit.
Right. I need
Okay,
a few
so
minutes too,
mark now to cut this shit out.
Bold of you to think that's going to happen.
Oh my god.
No.
So
Mark. Just start the timer.
Ooh, I almost closed out the window with Zencaster in it. That would have been bad. So let's see. He was over. How would he have actually done this? I'm going to posit that Joe was doing what Joe does best, and that's take really cool photos of trains. And he was trying to run across this shepherd's field to get up to the fence that was line side to get a photo of some ancient Italian train that's probably still out there running. And about halfway across the field, he slipped on sheep shit. And that's how he broke his foot. Because it sounds way cooler than falling in the pool. Am I the only one still here? Oh, God, I have to keep this going. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I like my story more.
What was yours again?
Well, remember, Joe went to visit the Vatican, right?
Right.
Yeah. And he also told us about how
the
ceiling
that's
in the Sistine Chapel, ever since it got renovated, now has what Japanese company was it? Has exclusive rights to the media?
Yeah, some Japanese company has exclusive rights to the media, so you can't take pictures of it. And what'd you say? He was trying to take a picture?
I think he
and
maybe snuck like a
Yakuza
picture or two.
Stomped his foot?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit more than that, because remember, he was in Sorrento when he allegedly fell in the pool and broke his foot. So
they hunted him down and stomped on his foot.
I think like the Japanese Yakuza probably hunted him down. Like I can see like a little Japanese guy, Yakuza,
tatted up to hell and back.
Well, yeah, he's dressed up as a Swiss guard, watching everybody, waiting for the little camera to come out. He sees it, he knows it. 3 days later, they catch up to him, and break his foot.
Man, that Swiss guard is so sneaky. You never know who's in there. It's the most easily infiltrated military force in the world, apparently. You just have to pretend to be kind of Catholic.
Did you just gotta give your penance and, I don't know, Hail Marys?
Do a couple Hail Marys, tithe a few weeks in a row, and you're in. Do you know how to clean a rifle? You're in.
No, they don't have rifles. They have pikes, right?
I thought they also had rifles.
Do they?
I don't know. Let's find out. We'll do the thing that we always do on this show and do research live. Equipment. Yep.
What's the Joe timer up to now?
I actually didn't start a timer. I think we're up to 6 minutes.
Okay.
So they use 6-hour 550s and 552s.
Ooh.
Damn.
Wait, is SIG an Italian company?
Swiss, I thought.
Yeah, that's so.
But I mean, Swiss Guard gets Swiss weapons.
Oh, true. No, yeah. That's...
If anyone wants a really fun physical challenge, tape like thumbtacks to the bottom center of your foot,
What?
and then try and pee standing up.
You can't sit.
I can't. Okay.
Do you refuse to sit?
It's very hard to try and sit down with one foot.
Okay, fair. Oh man,
Well-
you have to choose the lesser of two evils, don't you?
It's easier with the boot on now. But here's a fun fact, which is that if you are standing on one foot and trying to pee, the same core muscles that are holding you up are the same that are trying to that squeeze your bladder.
Shouldn't that just make it happen faster? I mean,
no, they do one or the other. So it's not okay. I've figured it out now. It's easier now, especially when I had the boot, but that first night or two was bad.
You made pretty good time considering.
Yeah, I would have been back faster, but I gave myself a Charlie horse for a minute. This is not going well. I haven't stood up in 2 weeks without on both feet.
You know what else didn't go well?
What?
I heard there was a football game we want to talk about.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about a football game. Hold on one second. I feel a bit like Joey Montana. Give me a sec.
If you remember this tomorrow, you're doing better than he was.
Right. So it is January 4th, 1987, sometime before 4:00 in the afternoon. An ambulance races through the crowded streets of New York City. Its destination is the Hospital for Special Surgery, an orthopedic research hospital on Manhattan's East Side. In the ambulance, the patient is the first victim of the great disaster that has struck New York City. Joe Montana, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, likely has no idea where he is, why he's going there, or what's happened to him. To understand that, we must go back to a specific time, 12:30 p.m. The sun was shining cold and clear over East Rutherford, New Jersey. Giant Stadium was packed to the rafters with blue jerseys, a smattering of red and gold dotted between. Up in the broadcasting booth, Pat Summerall and John Madden were marveling at the weather. You wouldn't expect it to be this good. Starting the game, the 49ers win the coin toss and the two teams line up for the first play. Giants opt to receive. The stakes are high and everything is on the line. The winning team will go on to play the Washington Redskins in the NFC Championship. After that, Super Bowl 21. Go on to the next slide now. Speaking of Washington, the next part of our story begins there. Amtrak Train 94, the Colonial, was just getting ready to leave. The train usually departs from Newport News at around 8 o'clock in the morning, a holdover from the C&O days, but on Sundays, the Virginia section of the train doesn't run. Instead, the Colonial starts out at noon in the nation's capital. It's a big train today. 12 coaches, 11 of them Amfleets. Heritage Coach 7624 is the only exception, marshaled in second from last on the train. The presence of this older coach should restrict the train to a maximum speed of 105 miles an hour. However, this would involve the conductor contacting every single dispatcher between Washington, D.C. and New York City, if not Boston, depending on how far the train goes. He is not about to do this. Instead, he assumes that somebody else will do it for him and gives Jerome Evans the high ball. The train leaves towards New York City and points north with a top speed of 125 miles an hour, going to happen whether or not it's supposed to. We're not even going to mention 7624's proclivity towards wheel hunting at high speed, which is why the older heritage coaches have been restricted to 105.
It'll be fine.
It's
a
just
little bit of shake.
Just a little bit. They're coach passengers anyway. It's
That's
fine.
why we put them at the back.
That's right.
Yeah, it's at the back. I mean,
it's just a few days after the New Year's holiday, and the train is packed with hundreds of passengers, to the point where the conductor has closed off Amcafe 20039, located at the forward end of the train behind the locomotives. This is so that passengers who board at Philadelphia or points north of there will actually have somewhere to sit on the train. It's big.
Oh, so he was holding their spots, basically.
He was holding their spots because otherwise there wouldn't be anywhere on the train for them to be.
God.
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll concentrate folks in certain cars, deadhead, other equipment, and then have it go live at a certain point.
Just the concept of having to do that blows my little southern mind, where that's not a thing.
It's its own subcontinent.
Just think of, if you're that poor little assistant conductor, do you want to like wade through the crowd and check tickets on 11 cars or 12 cars?
Well, no, they split it up. Each, the conductor and the assistant conductors each got 3 cars apiece. But I guess your section, it would still suck to have to wade through standing room only on your 3 cars.
Yeah. And up front, this train is huge. It's big enough that it requires 2 locomotives. Class Leader 900 is the second unit, and 903 is up front. The train powers north at 12:30 sharp, leaving right as advertised. Isn't that a novel fucking concept? Meanwhile, in the Meadowlands, things are already going wrong for Joe Montana and the 49ers. It's 2nd and 10 on their first possession at the 50-yard line. Montana sends a perfect pass to future Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, who catches it near the Giants' 40-yard line and sprints down the field totally unopposed. He's past the 30 and nearing the 20. It is all but a guaranteed touchdown. Nobody is near him. Then, all of a sudden, without changing stride, being tackled, or doing literally anything to oppose it, the ball just slips from his hands. It literally just goes boop and falls right onto the ground, where it is fumbled and is recovered by the Giants in their own end zone. John Madden is quick to blame the artificial turf, but Rice didn't even stumble. He just dropped the ball. This is something that he did in his first couple of seasons, and is really behavior unbecoming of someone who will be one of the greatest football players of all time before the end of his career. Even worse, now that the Giants have the ball, they set up at their own 20-yard line and begin a relentless charge down the field that will result in about 8 minutes in a touchdown. New York Giants 7, San Francisco 49ers 0. Next slide.
Really quickly before we move on, I realize that in just about every episode of this show, I have mentioned my dad somewhere, and I wasn't sure how this was going to work into this, but now I'm going to ask, hey, Dad, did you watch this show? Send me a text and let me know. Did you watch this game? Did you watch this happen? Did you know what was happening at the same time? Foreshadowing is a literary device.
I didn't notice in this picture, you can kind of see like an F40 cab or something over on the far left corner. Or is that an E60? Anyways, back on Amtrak, the Colonial has just crossed into Maryland and made its regularly scheduled stop at New Carrollton. After that, it's a high-speed jaunt up the corridor to Baltimore, streaking past BWI Airport in a line of polished, fluted stainless steel and one slab-sided heritage coach tagging on at the rear. It's getting close to 1 p.m. In New Jersey, Joe Montana...
That heritage coach was fluted stainless.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, they're all built by Bud, so...
Yeah. That's why they're still going. Bud, don't break, baby.
Evan, you just messaged me that this is an F40. You could have just said that.
Well, I didn't want to break your stride, man. You're going strong here.
Why is
you're like... Your autism is spinging for both, the football and the train. And
why is there an F40 at Ivy City?
So Ivy City is the yard just north of Washington, D.C., where the trains go and kind of get broken up. But Ivy City, there's a big locomotive maintenance facility there.
Ooh.
So it's like a spare cab.
No, it's probably a locomotive,
Oh.
like at the fuel rack or something like that.
Oh, it's just hidden.
Yeah, it looks like it's by
Yeah.
a sanding tower.
So you see how like the cannery
it's
poles are cantilevered there?
yeah. No, I see it
Yeah.
now.
So you got the Penn C main line now, Amtrak. That's 2 tracks, and then the 2 tracks beside that are B&O. That's their main line between
What?
Philly and Washington.
I see now. That's so fucked up.
Yeah, they come in like tuck right next to each other, and it gets really hairy whenever you got to go out there and do maintenance or whatnot. And
Yeah, you've got to talk to 2 different dispatchers.
pretty.
Anyways, in New
Anyways,
Jersey, Joe Montana's day continues to get worse. It's the next possession, and after three downs and a penalty call, the 49ers haven't gained any meaningful yardage. The kicking team comes in to close that out, and the game goes to commercial. Having watched this game on YouTube, the ads are charmingly of their time. Philips light bulbs, Federal Express, and, if we advance the slide a little bit, the Light Beer Ski Weekend, brought to you by great taste, less filling, Miller Lite.
Hell
Who cares
yes.
what time it actually is? It's Miller time.
I mean, if you say so, I'm not going to argue.
Now, if we go on to the next slide. Now we have to go to Baltimore, where Miller time has been going on for quite a while. So I love this image so much. The submarine one.
God. What the hell is that? You're about to die. Might as well crack open a Miller.
Submariner humor.
why are they on the surface to begin with? I mean,
presumably it's the end of the world.
apparently they're like, all right, just surface. Why not?
What are you going to fucking do? You're empty.
Well, I mean, yeah. Also, what are you going to do? You just nuked everybody. Who's going to shoot back?
Yeah. And now we have to go to Baltimore, where Miller time has been going on for quite a while. Inside the cab of Conrail B36-7, number 5044, Ricky Gates and Ed Cromwell are like pigs in fucking shit. Neither one of these guys would be considered a hard worker by even the most loose standards. And by simple luck, they'd landed a prime duty. Train ENS-21 was a trio of B-36-7s that had come into Bayview Yard overnight on train TV-22, and were now urgently needed in Enola Yard up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. A light engine move was possibly the best and easiest duty one could have. With no pesky freight cars to brake, drag equipment, or derail, the dynamic duo simply had to get the engines up the line. It was, at most, a 6-hour job that would involve a 2-hour cab ride back to Baltimore. The pay was incredible as well. In 1980s money, Cromwell was bagging $32 an hour for the job. Gates was getting $40. In modern money, that would be $96 and $120 an hour, respectively. Plus,
those wages bracket what I make today. That's insane.
Yeah, it's incredibly good money for doing almost nothing.
Oh my God. This is what they took from us.
But I mean, just remember how many packs a day you would have to smoke. And
that's right. It's all cigarette money. Never mind.
Yeah.
I would end up making the same thing anyway.
Yeah. Plus, this train pulled from the Bayview Extra Board, which meant that the standards for a crew were quite a bit lower than would otherwise be allowed. A guy who had spent the last 2 nights at a local bar and might still be drunk this morning would not be allowed the controls of a high-priority intermodal train like TV1. But for ENS 121, nobody's going to give much of a shit about an asshole like Ricky Gates or a slacker like Ed Cromwell. Well, especially, and so if they show that, so long as they appeared sober when they clocked in, everything was going to be fine. Of course.
I feel like this is a conversation that happened between train masters at that terminal. It's like, hey, look, man, there's just get in the habit. When certain guys come in and report for duty, don't stand too close for them. Establish the benefit of the doubt. Establish reasonable doubt. If you stand far enough away, you can't smell the booze on your breath. Therefore, you're not culpable when they fuck up.
Yeah.
And no, the train master is probably just like, I want 6 hours at the bar without that asshole there. So
yeah. And another thing to note was that because these 2 slackers basically lived on the extra board, they might not have expected to have been called today, and so they were like at their schlubbiest. But
Been
regardless,
there, done
they
that.
jumped at the chance for this easy money. So, of course, all of this was before the pot. And for that, we have to go to the next slide. So now we have to talk about pot.
The devil's lettuce.
According to Gates, he was addicted to both alcohol and marijuana and consumed them regularly. He was likely drunk or at least hungover when he came to work that day and had planned little for his after-work activities other than his regular bar fly nature. He consumed marijuana regularly, and if he had any at the time, he would bring it to work with him. On this day, as he sat in the cab of 5044, he didn't have any, and this may have affected his performance because clearly, while at least mildly sober, he missed multiple critical safety items. Firstly, locomotives are equipped with in-cab signal repeaters that light up the signal indication the train is running under. On the 5044, the bulb for the approach aspect was missing. Additionally, the warning whistle was muted with duct tape. This makes an audible alarm when the locomotive passes any signal without a clear aspect. The locomotive had last been inspected on New Year's Day, 3 days prior in Chicago, before it took train TV2 to somewhere near Baltimore when it took TV22 into Baltimore. So high priority intermodal train, but it was not the lead unit on either of those. Clearly, whoever did the inspection either pencil whipped it there, or they didn't have the ability to test the signal light aspect. And in either event, the muffled alarm whistle was similarly unable to be tested.
That if it was trailing, that could explain a lot, because I'm even to this day, you're only required to test the alerter and similar safety devices on the controlling locomotive. So if it was trailing, that engineer may have just, or whoever signed that inspection card may have just like looked at the mechanical portions.
I'm not certain if it was inspected like in the locomotive shop or on like a road train. I think it may have gone through like the shop very briefly, not like for like a standard like pre-trip inspection. It was missed. It was missed.
Yeah.
And Ricky Gates was not interested in doing his job that day, especially because while Ricky didn't have any weed, Ed Cromwell did.
Hey, the day saved.
At some point during their time in the cab of the engine, the brakeman produced a joint, and the two happily passed it back and forth. Whether or not this occurred before or after their departure from Bayview Yard is unclear, but considering both men had only been on duty for an hour by the time they drove ENS 121 onto the Northeast Corridor, it had to be sooner rather than later. If we go to the next slide, it is now 1:16 p.m. In the Meadowlands, things are looking up for Joe Montana. A long drive down the field didn't get them to a touchdown, but kicker Ray Wershing was able to sink an easy 26-yard field goal to put the 49ers on the board. The score is 7-3 with about a minute left in the first quarter. In Baltimore, the Colonial has just made its stop at Baltimore Penn Station. The train is running about 5 minutes behind schedule, to the point where Metroliner service train 112, which had left DC 4 minutes after the Colonial and 47 minutes behind schedule, but let's ignore that, was next to it at the platform. It should be noted that Metroliner service at this point was a brand name, and the actual Metroliner equipment was safely retired where it could no longer hurt anybody. That train was indeed locomotive hauled. Passengers boarded and disembarked, and the Colonial departed Baltimore bound for its next stop, Wilmington, Delaware. The number of passengers on board had grown to 660, with 12 crew on board.
That's a lot.
Now, if we go to...
That's 7 onboard service attendants.
Yeah, it was a lot of crew. 7 miles up the line in 3.8 miles up the line in Bayview Yard, Cheech and Chong had just gotten a proceed element, and the song Lowrider by War began to get louder and louder. Train ENS 121 made its way onto the Northeast Corridor, and for the time being, they would be on Track 1, one of the tracks dedicated to slower freight trains coming out of Bayview. Inside the cab, the atmosphere was described by the two as party-like and relaxed. Their biggest concern? Lunch.
That's right. Got to stay well fed. Can't railroad on an empty stomach.
You
What
can't
kind of
smoke
monster
pot on
are
an
you?
empty. You can't smoke pot on an empty stomach either.
Not for long. You get the munchies.
It's 1st and 10 at San Francisco's 32-yard line, and once again, things are not going well. They're halfway through the second quarter, and nobody has scored, leaving New York with a 4-point lead. Joe Montana shoots a deep throw and is immediately flattened by Carl Banks, a member of the Giants' legendary Big Blue Wrecking Crew, the world-class D-line that will, under the tutelage of defensive coordinator Bill Belichick, take the Giants to victories at 2 Super Bowls and 3 NFC championships. But it gets worse. At the Giants' 38-yard line, there isn't a single white and gold uniform in sight, and the Big Blue Wrecking Crew scores an easy interception when safety Herb Welch catches the ball like it had been thrown to him. A few seconds later, and Jerry Rice is on Welch like a ton of bricks. He laterals the ball to left cornerback Elvis Patterson, who takes the ball and runs with it. As the home team crowd screams, he makes it all the way back to San Francisco's 45-yard line, almost to the line of scrimmage, before he's tackled. A quick commentary break by John Madden, and the Giants' O-line is ready for another march down the field. It doesn't really matter, though, because on the first play, as the crowd roars, running back Joe Morris takes the ball and sprints 45 yards down the field for a touchdown, 49ers players nipping at his heels. The score is now 13-3, with the extra point coming in just a few seconds.
God.
The time is now 1:30 p.m. During the 14-minute period that ENS 121 has been on the move, it has not at any point kept a consistent speed. The locomotive speed recorder has shown a constant fluctuation of the 5 miles an hour in either direction of the permitted maximum speed of 60. The NTSB report shows that Ricky Gates has clearly left the throttle in too high of a notch for too long before throttling it back to reduce the train's speed. This is a clear indication that Ricky's mind is anywhere but on his work, as usual fluctuations of a driver should be anywhere around 1 to 2 miles an hour in either direction. Zach, you can back me up on that, right?
It depends on how tired I am.
Valid.
I will say I'm much more vigilant about going over, but I've definitely been tired. And then all of a sudden looked at the speedometer and it's like, oh my God, I'm 5 under. Shit.
Yeah, that's Ricky Gates within 15 minutes of leaving the yard. Ricky has been an engineer too long to let something like this happen, but what occurs next is even more inexcusable. As we can see on this diagram, the NEC crosses, it says, the Gunpowder River on a 2-track bridge, imaginatively named the Gunpowder River Bridge. At the south end of the bridge is gunpow interlocking, which controls the tracks as they slim down into 2 lines, as we've talked about. As ENS 121 approached gunpow interlocking, it proceeded past the distance signal, which was at an approach aspect. It did not slow down. It then approached the home signal, which was showing a stop aspect. At some point, as it rounded that long sweeping curve, Ricky Gates did in fact see the signal and immediately applied the brakes. However, the train was at this point traveling 64 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour over the maximum speed limit that Conrail allowed light engine moves to go at. There was no way he was going to stop it in time. At 1:30 p.m., ENS 121 ran through the switch and entered track 2. It came to a full stop on the line with 5044 and 5052 fully on track 2, while 5045 was basically atop the turnout. In the Meadowlands, cheering fans hoist a sign saying 1 giant step to Pasadena, while kicker Raul Alegre sinks the extra point. It's 14-3 Giants. In the cab of 5044, Ricky Gates and Ed Cromwell have a surprisingly long time to realize exactly what they've done and exactly how fucked they are. The asshole puckering silence in the cab must have been deafening. And we can go on to the next slide now. Then one of them looked back down the track. Behind them, the Colonial is sweeping around the curve in the track some 3,000 feet away. It is traveling at 120 miles an hour.
Oh God.
Gates and Cromwell, as witnessed by homeowners who live alongside the tracks, run for their lives, sprinting off the 5044 and into the tree-lined trackside community of Chase, Maryland. In the cab of Amtrak 903, we have no idea what Jerry Evans was thinking or what he said. All we know was that he hit the emergency brakes as the train screamed towards the Conrail engines. It helped a little. The Colonial managed to slow down to 107 miles an hour.
I got a point of order here.
Yes.
So in the report, it says that there were skid marks on the rails for 2,327 feet north or south of the home signal. That's only like 14 seconds at the speed that they were going.
Yeah. He did not have a whole lot of time.
No. And I mean, you got to add like 2 seconds for him to kind of recognize what was going on, throw the emergency brakes on, and for them to actually apply enough to leave marks on the rail. Yeah. It was not enough time.
And I'm on the second image in that slide if you guys are looking. There's another
Beautiful.
one.
That's so little time to realize just how screwed you are.
Yeah.
But just long enough for you to realize how screwed you are. Oh, that's bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
The destruction is absolute. The 903 and the 5025 effectively ceased to exist, taking Jerry Evans with them. The 900 came off its trucks and slid almost 400 feet down the track, while every coach behind it derails to some extent. The brunt of the damage is borne by the lead two coaches, AmCafe 20029 and AmCoach 21236, with the 21236 being bent almost in half by the accident. The diesel from the locomotives on ENS 121, especially the rear locomotive, causes a massive explosion upon impact, and a fire soon takes hold at the crash site. We can see another image here on this next slide that shows how the entire Colonial basically jackknifed and went into the woods.
Looks like it displaced that track too. That's a lot of
it
force.
Displaced everything.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, it did enough to, it didn't bring down any catenary structures, but it definitely killed the signal power. And that's how a bunch of interlockings north and south knew something had happened.
Well, yeah, the first indication that something had gone wrong was when ENS 121 went through the switch and the signaler at, what was Edgewood, you said, lost communication with the switch. And then a couple of seconds later, it's not indicated how long, but within the 1:30 p.m. minute, he got a very weak transmission saying something emergency, and he knew that something had happened at that point. It would not have taken a brain surgeon to realize, based on the train movements before then, exactly what had happened. And that was probably not a fun sensation in the pit of your gut to get.
Oh,
no.
Hey, why? Do you want to talk about why there was a really weak radio transmission?
I would love to talk about why there was a really weak radio transmission.
You want me to give the quick and dirty on it?
Yes, please.
So every lead locomotive on the Northeast Corridor is supposed to have an operable base radio. The 5044 did not have one. So either Ricky or Ed stole one from one of the two trailing units and tried to put it on the 5044 that they're operating out of, and allegedly did not wire it correctly, which I'm not sure how you don't wire it correctly when it's a bunch of plugs that only fit into one socket and you just have to plug it in, and then it has like a threaded coupler that you run up against it. But basically it didn't work. So the only radio they had for communications was a handheld radio that did not have a great range. And apparently it had just enough range to reach the Edgewood Tower. And that was it. But they skipped a radio check when they were leaving Bayview, and nobody said anything about it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not hard to imagine maybe one of them was a little higher already, and just sort of
We're just lazy. Like we're light power. We don't need the radio, dude. Maybe? I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. My phone was. I got a text right at this exact moment.
Oh, it's worse than Katie Coupler's.
I was being asked what I want for dinner. Shut the fuck up. Anyways, now we must move on. The first responders on the scene are local residents who heard the bomb-like noises of the collision and ran to assist. They find a scene of total devastation, where stainless steel coaches have been bent inwards on themselves and hundreds of injured people are staggering around the tracks in a bloody daze. Apparently those in the back of the train especially were grabbing their suitcases and everything out of the train and just staggering around on the tracks. The local fire
God, what a
department.
sight.
Oh, yeah, no, the local fire department was quick to arrive, but they really didn't have an idea of what they were in for. Being mostly volunteer forces in the Chase area, they did have an annual disaster response training session, and it did serve them well. I do want to say this. They did everything right. The rescue was a masterclass, and it's still studied to this day, or it was studied for a very long time. But one thing that no amount of training can prepare you for is the images of the devastation that you will see in this. There were, especially as you get further into the forward half of the train, people were just broken in ways that cannot be fixed. People are dead. People are grievously wounded. A lot of people had been standing up in the cafe cars, which admittedly were further back in the train, but they went flying. You had people who were hit in the head by flying bags as the train derailed. And then, of course, in 21236, the whole coach was bent in half, basically. Like, it was bent in a 90-degree angle.
That's a terrifying amount of force.
This is an unimaginable level of accident. This is like, I think, one of the highest speed train accidents in the United States. Because they went from 107 to 0 in under 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mass to stop in 1,000 feet.
And so the coaches did not telescope, but had the conductor flipped the script and decided to close the rear cars for Philadelphia and let people into the Am Cafe at the front, the death toll would have been in the triple digits, probably.
Oh, almost definitely.
So
Hold on, you said it was 107 miles per hour that the derailment?
At the time of impact, that's what they figured.
I mean, it beats 188 in Philly by 5 miles per hour. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a disastrous impact. And then another thing that the rescuers were uniquely unprepared for was the sheer number of passengers on the train who all needed to be corralled and taken to hospitals and taken to other places. This did not always go well. The train, quite a few people who I guess were from the rear of the train actually just staggered off into the nearby woods and went home, I guess.
Yeah, went into the neighborhoods, got somebody that lived along the tracks to call a cab for them, and then basically continued on their journey.
Yeah, or they went home, but this meant that it was almost impossible to get a full head count from the passengers, which must have been terrifying, because I could totally see this as a disaster where like somebody just evaporated. And so it was it was bad. A lot of the passengers and the rescuers suffer lifetime mental afflictions like PTSD from what they saw here. There were interviews I was seeing from like newspapers in like 2000 and things like that where they still like, I can see it and stuff like that. And it's bad, especially like because the rescue went on all night. Like the Amfleet cars were built bud tough but that means that they were also difficult to cut through with hydraulic cutting tools. So the jaws of life were uniquely ineffective here, or at least the 1987 version of the jaws of life.
When you do your job so well, it hinders search and rescue efforts.
Yeah, the
That's got to
NTSB
be a
found
weird point of pride.
the NTSB found some fault with the amphitheats that I really hope you guys read about, because I didn't have the time to.
What? You're dissing on a Bud product? Oh, somebody's going to
I-
comment on that.
I'm not. The NTSB is. I just don't remember what they wrote because I didn't write it down.
No, I forgot to note that one.
There were some issues with the evacuation. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, because this was so close to the Hinton collision, that it was probably things like the evacuation windows not existing yet and things like that.
Oh, and being super tiny. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we talked about that in the Hinton collision video. If there's other ones, don't write to us. We forgot. I just can't remember what I forgot, which is how that works. It took over 10 hours to extract the last alive victim from the train. And it was January in Maryland, right alongside a major body of water. So it was freezing and it was awful. The final death toll was 14 passengers and 2 crew, all on the Colonial. They ranged from full-grown adults to young children. Injured 163 on the Amtrak train, plus Ed Cromwell, who couldn't run away from the consequences of his actions fast enough, and so suffered a broken leg in the collision. And then you can see these images here. This top image of the AEM7, that's 900. So the car body is basically intact, and the electrical components have already been removed. And then if you look down at this other image, that's 903. If you look at,
yeah,
that's 903. That's what's left of it.
But God, even 900, the frame is very clearly bent.
Yeah.
That's solid steel.
Yeah.
Remember 900's one that came to rest in that puddle of burning diesel fuel.
Yes. And I believe most of the coaches were scrapped on site. I think maybe the Heritage coach survived in like the last Am Cafe. I'm not certain. But like there might, or was it the Am Lounge, Am Cafe, whatever it was.
Am Club.
Am Club, that's what it was. In also, again, managing to escape with the consequences of their actions. The 5044 and the what was the middle engine?
52.
5044 and 5052 actually survived the accident. So 5044 was mostly undamaged, being at the front of the impact. It was shoved the furthest away. 5052 was actually, the cab was shoved all the way till it was touching the, I don't know what comes first in the B36, whether it's the engine block, the electrical cabinet, or the
it would be the electrical cabinet and then the generator.
Yeah, the cab was touching the generator, basically.
Nice.
And so
that's a lot of smashy.
Like the nose of the engine was touching the generator, basically. So
did it even have a nose left?
It was flat. It was like smushing your face against a window, that sort of thing. There's pictures of it. You could look it up. I'm not.
Yeah, I just found it. So you can see the crash post pushed all the way back. The equalizer reservoir is.
That got a new cab, and then the 5044 got, I think it had some damage to the long hood, but they were both replaced. They were both in service for another 20 years, and then I believe both of them got exported to Brazil.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did that.
Wait, did they become those like weird little meter gauge ones that had the Bobo trucks?
I don't know if they were meter gauged or broad gauged, but yes.
Huh.
Oh my God.
But they were re-gauged. Entirely possible they're still there now. They successfully did the thing of they ran away to a different country and changed their name.
That's one way to put it.
Yep.
So they could still be out there. But before we continue, we have to talk about one more disaster. Back up in New Jersey.
Yeah, forget about this train stuff. Tell me about football.
When we left the 49ers, they were within comeback distance of victory. It was possible. It was there. Now, as the minutes slip by, it's anything but. With 55 seconds left in the first half, the Giants score another touchdown, putting the score at 21-3. Seconds later, once San Francisco gets the ball back, Joe Montana throws yet another interception. This one is returned for a touchdown, putting the score up to an almost unassailable 28-3. But far worse has occurred back at the line of scrimmage. The Big Blue Wrecking Crew is struck again, and as the ball flew off downfield, nose tackle Jim Burt not only sacked Joe Montana, but hit him hard enough to knock him unconscious. Even in 1986, even in 1987, this was seen as bad, and a thoroughly concussed Montana was carted off the field and tended to inside the stadium until, with minutes to go in the fourth quarter, he was actually carted off to a hospital. With their star quarterback in La La Land, the 49ers' day only got worse from there. The Giants put up an additional 21 points in the third quarter before taking mercy on their opponent. The game would eventually end with a box score of 49-3. Unsurprisingly, the 49ers would go home with their tail between their legs, and the Giants would go on to defeat the Redskins and then go on to Super Bowl 21, where they would win.
The fact that they were concerned enough about that injury before CTE was even on anybody's radar is kind of impressive.
It was a hard hit.
Oof.
But Evan, which engine is this that you sent me the photo of?
Oh, that's our intrepid leader. The
5044. 5044 is still out with VLI in I don't know what that means, but it's in Brazil, right?
Brazil. But it's running meter gauge and it's got these like little weird.
Yep, Bobo. Yep. That's fantastic.
Twice as many trucks equals twice as better, right?
Twice as many brake shoes. Maybe it can stop now. Then again, stopping from 64 will be a lot easier because it's now in kilometers an hour.
Oh, Lord.
That was a dumb joke, and I highly approve of it.
I thought it was great. Anyways,
that was a great dumb joke.
Yeah. We're going on to the next slide, which I did not put in, so you guys have to talk now.
Yeah, so that's the
this
immediate
is the aftermath.
Yeah, that's the immediate aftermath. Was all the cleanup. Lots of initial confusion about what had happened and who was responsible. Slowly and surely, it came out that allegedly Gates and Cromwell were smoking weed up in the cab. This led to the February 25th, 1988 meeting, or the hearing by the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee about drug and alcohol testing in the transportation industry. It's really not good. Early drug and alcohol testing had started. It really did. It painted a poor picture of all of these train crews, mostly because it was a bunch of drunkards. A lot of guys showing up drunk to work, and a lot of managers just kind of looking the other way as long as nothing happens. But both Edward Cromwell and Ricky Gates have to testify at this hearing. Cromwell barely speaks. Gates says way too much, and every word is damning. There's a lot of legal implications that come forth out of this. I don't fully understand it. I'll be completely honest with you all. But from what I understand, Cromwell threw Gates under the bus in exchange for immunity. And then Gates took the brunt of the punishment. But that led to this hearing, which then...
How long did he go to jail for?
I forgot to write that down. It wasn't terribly long.
Was it not long like the bus crash?
It was like a couple of years.
Yeah, that's not long enough,
Yeah.
but that's exactly like the bus crash.
Yeah, because
What
the
the
whole
fuck is that
cultural
guy's name?
attitude.
What?
I don't remember.
Hold on, I'm Googling. Keep talking.
Okay, you got it.
Wasn't it like 5 years or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it
We'll find
was
out.
between 3 and 5 years. I want to say he got out earlier on parole. Don't quote me on this. I don't know, but it led to this 1988 hearing led to
Larry,
the
that's who it
1991.
was.
What?
Larry Mahoney.
Larry, that's right. Old Larry.
Which, by the way, Larry hadn't even killed anybody yet. Larry
Oh, that was
got
after
axed
this.
in 1988.
Jesus. Yeah, we still had a ways to go as far as our cultural attitude towards vehicle
Drinking and
operation while you're impaired.
We have no punishment to fit his crime.
Yeah.
We're about to invent the punishment, but
I did read a report about drug and alcohol consumption affecting the railroads, and it was noted that prior to this event, it wasn't against the rules or it wasn't a crime to show up to work drunk. It was against certain railroads rules. Most everybody had a rule G, but there was no legal enforcement that could be done about it. You could just get fired. And a lot of railroads didn't want to fire somebody because if you fired every drunk that showed up to work while still intoxicated, you were going to fire a lot of people.
Yep.
But this whole thing and this Senate hearing led to the 1991 Omnibus Transportation Employee Testing Act, which led to, next slide, please.
Drum roll.
So many whiz quizzes. Train crews now get pre-employment drug testing during the biannual physical exam, drug testing for human factor incidents, drug testings for incidents where they didn't do anything wrong, but the damage adds up to over $150,000, drug test if they think you're high, drug testing if your name comes up in the random employee picker used to determine who gets the random drug test, and hell, you could even get drug tested if someone walks out in front of your train that's doing 60 miles an hour. Doesn't matter that you couldn't do anything there, but they have to drug test you because somebody died. Now, here's where it gets a little weird, little squicky. THC can show up in your urine for up to 60 days after consumption. After being consumed, THC is stored in your body in fat cells and is slowly released and disposed of via your urine. So what this means is that if I go on vacation and I have some edibles and then I come back and report to work completely sober, but then kill a dumbass that stepped out in front of my train without looking, I'm going to get drug tested. I could not have stopped that train in time, and the investigation will show that, but then the investigation will also see that I had a drug test come back hot for THC. The company is then legally obligated to fire me, even though my drug consumption on my own time had zero impact on this incident. This is a tool that has been used to help suppress folks who want stress or pain relief without relying upon medications or alcohol. Even in states where weed is legal, if you work in a Department of Transportation governed safety-sensitive position, you cannot consume any THC products. Our neighbors to the north have seen the error in this testing method and have shifted to using cheek swab tests, which will only detect the presence of THC for up to 48 hours post-consumption. Still not the greatest deal, but you can have your gummies while you're on vacation up to 2/3 of the way through that week-long vacation, and you'll still definitely pass the drug test when you come back to work. Oddly enough, THC is the only drug on a standard 5-panel urine test that remains detectable in your system for more than 72 hours. Cocaine can be completely gone with zero evidence left behind in as little as 18 hours, but the devil's lettuce will hang around for weeks, and it doesn't even do anything to impair you once you get about 8 hours at most past consumption. Somehow this is okay, but the war on drugs is never going to end. Next slide.
I like that we did have just a slide full of urine on screen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is the quality content that we deliver for our listeners.
You should have had like a little animation with bubbles or something.
You overestimate my skills.
Every now and then, just a little bubble.
No, you have to pay for that. Go check out the OnlyFans.
Patreon tier Zach Pissvid. No, no.
Oh Lord.
But good news, everybody. If you need help with your addiction of any kind, you can talk to addiction counselors. Most employees will pay for it so long as you successfully complete the treatment. This can be used to help employees actually keep their jobs. If you admit that you have a problem before completing the drug or alcohol test, you could basically take medical leave to go seek treatment. You will have lots of follow-up testing upon your return, but your job is held for you. I have seen this, I'll say second hand, because I wasn't the one that went out because I showed up to work drunk, but I saw that happen. Somebody showed up, got a reasonable suspicion test, and before they blew into the breathalyzer, they said I had a problem. Sought the treatment, came back and reported for duty, and I think they checked him like every second or third day. And it wasn't just like when he showed up to work, it was also they would stop his train on an industrial spur and be like, hey, it's time to get out. Hey, you remember Frank that does the breathalyzer? Yeah, we got him in the car with us. Why don't you come over here? And then
Jesus.
once he blew back zeros, they put him back on the motor and let him keep working.
How long did they do that for?
It was legitimately months. At least 4 months that I saw. And I think they still had a certain level of follow-up testing for a full year, but it wasn't as frequent after a while. But if you were in this position back in the 90s and you were in Maryland, you may have opted to get addiction treatment and had none other than Ricky Gates himself as your counselor, which is why I have his face over Mr. Garrison here, because he's going to tell you that drugs are bad, okay? I don't know how long he worked as a counselor, but he was a very outspoken advocate for addiction treatment, which, to be fair, is a lot better than just criminalizing and villainizing addicts.
True.
But
what's this next slide?
But we do have something that we have to talk about now, because I'm going to hit the next slide button, and then we're going to laugh for a second, and then we're going to keep on and then we're going to discuss why the slide is here. So we're going to go on to the next slide. And this is all Evan's handiwork except for the newspapers slide. This is wonderful.
I typed the word conspiracy. Give me some credit.
This was a group effort. So if you are deeply into trains, whether through a hobby or a work position, you may or may not be aware that there is a conspiracy about this accident. So the story that we have, the story that I duly reported to you all, comes from Ricky Gates and Ed Cromwell themselves, who were facing a serious amount of jail time for the fact that, they killed 16 people by being dumb shits. And so there is theory that this was seized on by an opportunistic Reagan administration to help criminalize marijuana usage. And that actually neither of them were high at all. And the actual reason why Ricky Gates and Ed Cromwell blew through two signals and stopped in front of the Colonial is that one of them, and we're not certain who, had brought a portable television into the cab of the 5044 and were watching the Giants 49ers game, which would have been happening at the exact time of the crash.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is an entirely reason, and this is a story that I have okay, I need to say this properly. I have spoken about this accident to multiple people because I first learned about this conspiracy theory from Zach. And so I've then brought it up with other people I know, because I'm now a little bit involved in the rail heritage scene. And multiple people have brought it up without me saying anything about the conspiracy. I've just mentioned the crash there, or I've mentioned Ricky Gates, have brought up unprompted this theory, which means that it has legs. And it has to have come from somewhere. And so And it makes a lot of sense. It really makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because I don't think that, like, being that inebriated, being high is going to make you miss the signals that badly. He's done his job well enough. Ricky Gates especially had done his job well enough that such a thing should have been inexcusable, unless he was actively making lunch and missed the signals somehow.
Well, Ed Cromwell said that he didn't see the advance signal because he was standing up making his lunch and his head was above the level of the windows, which I don't know what you're doing in the cab standing up to make lunch.
I mean, unless he's putting it on top of the control stand, but he doesn't have a control stand.
No, but maybe he came over to see what excitement was happening on that little TV on
Maybe.
top of the control stand.
So I
Like
actually
like a stoner, like there's the old joke of the stoner waiting at the stoplight, waiting for it to the stop sign, waiting for it to turn green. Like that would be more what they did, as opposed to, like, I just, there's enough reasonable doubt that this happened.
I do find it hard to believe that somebody could be as hardcore of an alcoholic as Ricky and be enough of a stoner to be okay with smoking at work and still have this go completely unnoticed or unmentioned by anybody else around him.
Yeah, like
nobody ever said, yeah, I occasionally smelled weed on Ricky or Ed for that matter.
There's something else to, like, mention, which is that this accident happened because of, like, the most simple fucking error that you could make in your life. Like, Ricky Gates has been doing this long enough that there needs to be a more complicated form of accident here. Right? Like even if you're high off your ass, or you're a little bit drunk, you should be able to tell when it's like what's happening in the world around you. Now, if you're watching the Giants score a second touchdown because of an interception, that's a lot more reasonable to blow through a signal, especially if the engine has a muffled alerter and a bad cab signal that you didn't test.
So you'd only have, a short amount of time to recognize, all right, I got an approach before you look up and like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, and something else that the NTSB mentioned is that at the time, all of the aspects on the signals for the Northeast Corridor were white, which meant that if the sun was in the wrong position, you could, in theory, miss that as well. So it is entirely possible.
The sun will also cause Fresnel lenses, like what a lot. I don't know if the Pennsylvania Railroad searchlight, or I'm sorry, position signals use Fresnel lenses on them at all.
Fresnel or Fresnel?
That was Fresnel.
Is that another German word that we're going to argue about?
No,
it might be. But certain signal lenses can be falsely lit up by the sun if it hits them right. I saw 3 different people run the same signal on a red on 3 days in a row because one person came up on it, the sun hit it just right, and it looked like the clear aspect was on, and she ran through and got stopped and got pulled out of service. The next day, her relief, who took over her run because the original one was taken out of service pending investigation, came around this curve, saw a clear aspect, and then got stopped forcefully because it was actually red. And then that operator is taken out of service. And then a third operator off the extra board, relieving those 2 previous ones, came around that curve at the same time on the same trip and ran a red signal because it looked like it was a clear. And that was when they realized they had an issue.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It's possible. It's entirely possible that there was a different cause to this. The one that everybody seems to almost universally believe, and this has been going back for a while, I believe there is a train orders or an RYPN forum post from the early 2000s of someone alleging to be Ricky Gates, who is specifically commenting to disprove the rumor in the early 2000s that he was watching TV instead of being high.
Ricky Gates has said multiple times on verified accounts that no, he was not watching TV at the time.
Which really seems like what you would say if a guy from the federal government sits down and says, you can either say that you did.
Do you want to go to jail forever for killing all these people, or do you want to maybe get out a little sooner?
Yeah, do you want to do 25 to life because we'll charge you for capital murder because we'll figure it out? Or you can say that you did drugs and like in 5 years you'll be out and we'll get you like a cushy job doing therapy.
I've specifically waited until now to reveal this, but I learned 3 days ago where the first time I heard about this was, and I had to be reminded by somebody who was there with me when it happened. I first heard about this back in 2010 when I was going through a railroad rules class, and a certain manager was talking about drug testing requirements and what could happen, and kind of mentioned this incident and said, well, it was, this is what's going to happen if you're impaired and you're up there running a train. You could mess up like this. I mean, it could also happen if you were watching TV and you're distracted. But nope, we're here to talk about drugs today, and just blew right past it. And it took me a while to connect those dots. And I mentioned to somebody that I was going to be recording this episode, and they go, "Oh, you don't remember so and so talking about that in class?" It is a very widespread thing.
Yeah, and I've talked to people who know people who worked on Amtrak on the Northeast Corridor, and they've mentioned the exact same thing. And when we talked to Evan for the first time, before we even mentioned that we were going to do this one, he mentioned the television too. So, and actually, when I was doing research for this, I found a Baltimore magazine article that was talking about the accident, like in retrospective, and it even mentioned that maybe they were listening to the radio of this game because I guess the writer didn't know or didn't want to include the thing about the game, but about watching television. But it's entirely possible that they were sitting here watching TV, and then after the wreck, during this chaotic initial emergency response, the first Conrail train master on scene, perhaps just wishing to protect his own, and you can read into how much big government, because Conrail was a nationalized railroad.
Yeah.
Whether he did this out of an attempt to protect his job, his guys, the sphere of influence he had control over, or if he was acting on orders from Ronald Reagan, went into the cab of the 5044, found the television, and proceeded to march about 1,000 feet down the tracks to the Gunpowder River, at which point the crabs got a new television.
Oh, he hit it over his like comically oversized trench coat because it was January. He just kind of shoved along, and it was
high vis Conrail trench coat.
No, they didn't use high vis.
No, not back then. Come on.
No. I need you guys to understand something. Now, my grandfather, who has since passed, was a cop for the United Nations, and seriously, I'm not joking. He worked for on the grounds of the United Nations building in New York City, and that was left to me when he died, a bright orange raincoat that is like trench coat length, that was used, and it's high vis orange. It's not like high vis. It's not retro reflective, but it is this gigantic orange trench coat. I bet you Conrail had something similar, or it was a big puffy Carhartt.
Well, you also have to remember that this is the railroad that wants to do everything the old way forever. I mean, high vis wasn't required by the G Corps until the last edition, I want to say, maybe the edition before. So that's within the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Yeah. Then he was wearing just a Carhartt jacket or something. But in either event, he donated.
It's the Northeast. He's got a big old trench coat and a fedora, and you know it.
he donated the TV to the Crabs,
That's right.
where they got to watch Joe Montana in the end of the second quarter get knocked the fuck out,
That's right.
which is you can see here.
They look so happy about it too. Those are some
Yeah, don't
sick
they?
bastards.
Nobody's
I'm
a
sure
San
they're.
Francisco fan on the in the Northeast.
No, you got to support your local team. You know.
And it I cannot stress how badly this game went for San Francisco. This is like a Do you know how bad it is to be a team named after a number and lose by that number?
Oh,
I didn't put that together.
ouch.
They lost historically. They lost so bad. They 49-3. I know that neither of you two watch sports that much, but 49-3 is the sort of thing that you talk about the next day, and I can't believe that happened. That sort of thing.
And everybody on the team like tries to pretend it never happened.
You can't ignore that.
Well, if you bring it up to them, they change the subject.
Joe Montana might not remember that it happened.
That's for a different reason entirely.
That's for a different reason. But yes, and I would also like to thank one of the newspapers from Poughkeepsie for this wonderful snip from newspapers.com of Giants bathe in glory and Gatorade directly over, 12 die in train wreck.
That is a hell of a juxtaposition.
So, yes, that is, unless we have anything else to say, that is the story of the 1987 Chase, Maryland train collision, both official and unofficial. I hope you were all able to bear with us through my interspersing of this football game and the train wreck in the narrative segment.
Well, they were both a train wreck, so.
Oh,
very different reasons. I do like this narrative style because it lets me flex my writing muscles a little bit. They're about the only muscles I can flex right now. But I'm gonna be walking in like circles when I get this boot off. Oh my god, I've got like 4 more weeks. It's so bad. But we have another segment to this podcast where we ask you guys to email us with stories that you have learned from people almost dying on public transit. And if you have one such story, please email us at SYDDOYWTW at gmail.com. And so this is a story that comes from Hannah, who it knows me in another Discord server that I have posted about this show, and she very helpfully collated this into an email and sent it to me. These photos did not come from her. I just found these online. But back in 2000, so this is a story from England, in case we couldn't tell. Are you guys
the right-hand drive bus wasn't a big clue?
I wanted to make sure. Are you guys ready? Evan, have you recoupled your model trains and everything?
Yeah, we're all together. I see the level crossings.
Back in 2002, and admittedly before I moved to Leeds, and being fair, I was 16 at the time, there was an incident in a town that I used to work in years before I worked there, and in a weird bit, I know more about this story because I lived next to the driver's grandson after I moved to Leeds. So here's the story. Castleford is a town that has existed since before Roman times, and one of the roads through is High Street, which leads directly onto Albion Street right at the railway crossing. This railway was put in by the Northeastern Railway in 1870, so for a level crossing to be here, it's not, oh, it's new. However, High Street is a hill, so you do need brakes to make sure you don't have an issue, but that led us on to John Smith, or John Doe for us Americans. Arriva Yorkshire took over the old bus company in 1997 and grandfathered in a lot of drivers, including John, who was a guy who'd been driving buses for, at this point, 40 years. And he was driving one of, at the time, brand new Alexander ALX 400 buses, and had done the 189 route a lot. This route went from Wakefield to Normanton to Castleford to Methley to Leeds. And fair enough, hadn't gotten much behind the wheel of one of these new 20 buses. On that section of track are 3 passenger trains an hour. One is a turnaround at Castleford Station, so very short time between crossing signals, with occasional freight and coal trains, including a once-a-day parliamentary train that goes to Grimsby. So not infrequent train service through here. It's fairly regular. On this April day, John was driving the 189 from Wakefield to Castleford before he'd have to carry on to Leeds and take the mandatory break of 45 minutes, and had crested the hill and started down, including taking the lazy S that the road does there. Now, on the way towards the crossing was a Hallam line service to Sheffield. It's a slow service from Leeds. And of course, the flashers and sirens started going off, and instead of slowing down, John sped up. After the oncoming barriers came down, and before the offside barriers came down, which is split to give cars time to escape, he slalomed through the barriers, just clearing the last one before it started coming down. John did not report this. This came to light due to the signaler reporting it to the RAIB as a near miss, but Arriva didn't find out until the RAIB investigation came asking about a month later. And then a year or so later, it was on national television as one of those cop-style shows at the time, because it had been caught on CCTV. John did get shuffled off to an early retirement rather than outright fired due to union pressure. So we would like to thank you for that story, Hannah, of people almost getting fucking plastered in a double-decker bus. It's like the other one that we did, the Ottawa one, except stupid. Zach, have you died? Are you on mute? Did you mute yourself?
Yes, I forgot to hit the button.
I was wondering why you hadn't said a goddamn thing. It was really messing with my flow.
I'm sorry. I was really focused on this one. I had a really cute quip in there too. I guess that's just gone to the ether now.
You could say the quip again so we can
No, not anymore. The moment's gone. But I'm fascinated by this global phenomenon of main character syndrome, particularly around railway grade crossings. It's always this, fuck you, I'm not waiting 10 seconds or 20 seconds for this train to come by, especially over in the UK where the trains are not that long. You're not going to be stopped for that long at all.
Yeah, it's like I can't be bothered to wait the 7 seconds for this 2-car multiple unit to go by.
Yeah, and on a bus full of people.
The only thing I'll say about this is I know from when I was stationed in Germany, it seems like the gates would come down an unusually long amount of time before the train occupied.
It's because they have
maybe
because they usually have 4 quadrant gates or something, so it means that they have to have longer time to clear traffic out of it. But that is actually a genuine point that I hope we effectively raised in the Fox River Grove episode, which is like episode number 3 at this point, so 20 episodes ago. Which is that having a crossing gate that comes down for too long is in many ways more dangerous because a passenger vehicle waiting at the crossing will attempt to go around it. And this means that if there's ever a faster train that takes up more time of that, you'll get hit. But it also just sort of incentivizes and almost like breeds people just jumping the lights and gates because the train's never there.
Right, and you get this impression of like, all right, I got enough time to get around this. You know, I don't want to wait 5 minutes for nothing to come, and then this tiny little train comes rolling through.
I have been seeing this a lot lately at a relatively newly installed crossing that I have to drive by that sees, I don't know how many passenger trains a day. It's on a commuter line, and then like maybe 3 or 4 freight trains a week. The gates come down ridiculously early for the speeds that those trains operate through there. And I definitely see a lot of people getting concerned about being stuck behind that and running through it, which I am biased, but I still couldn't.
Is this the Silver Line?
Yes.
So,
and for what it's worth, I have spoken up and I've said something to the closest person I can get to a signal maintainer, which is the dispatcher, and said like, hey man, y'all might want to do something about this because something's going to happen. And bureaucracy happens and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was almost wondering if it's either set too long, or other thought is there a station near there?
Yes, there is, but they have DTMF controlled crossings near the stations, but that one is far enough away that it wouldn't be affected by a train in the station.
What is
Because
DTMF?
DTMF is a method of controlling crossings near stations like that. So basically, if you show up and you
Yeah.
stop, the crossing signals don't activate. You have to keep moving at a minimum speed. But
Okay.
once you're ready to, or close to being ready to depart, you can punch in a code on your radio. The crossing picks up those tones and goes, "Oh, hey, that's for me. I need to activate now."
I'm almost
Gotcha. Yeah, they started doing something similar to that on Amtrak in California, where stations in the middle of like these beach towns, and
I'm
Yeah.
almost
Oh, it's not a
wondering
new technology at all.
I'm almost wondering if the station and that crossing are like in conflict with each other. Like maybe the actual thing for the crossing is the induction loop for the crossing that you're having the issue with is before the station. So
But see,
they
I've
might
I've
have
seen it happening with trains in either direction. The closest
then
one
they
is like 3/4 of a mile away, maybe a mile away, and in
then
the
they just have
other
it timed
direction, it's
wrong.
like 3 or 4 miles.
They just have
Hmm.
it timed wrong then.
That's all it is.
Yep.
I mean, the big thing is what the FRA requires it to be the gates down 15 seconds before the train enters the crossing. So
At
Yeah, that's
least.
actually minimum timing is actually what the Fox River Grove was about, because of how they'd reduce the timings because of UP and CNW merging.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a whole thing. But yeah, no, that's basically it for this one. Unless Evan, do you remember how we talked about the Dodge Durango frame debacle last time we chatted? Do we want to tell that one?
No, I don't.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to tell this now. Very quickly, this was relayed to me by other people in the railway heritage industry who knew someone who worked on the Northeast Corridor. So,
Oh,
it,
this story.
in the
Oh, that. Yeah.
in the early 2000s, and Evan, you're gonna have to help me with some of these details because I may have forgotten them.
Okay.
The Dodge Durango was built in Newark, Delaware, and so the frames for these vehicles were delivered, because the Durango was a body-on-frame SUV, was delivered to the plant on the Northeast Corridor by Conrail. Now, because Chrysler Corporation is and always has been cheap, hateful people who make terrible, awful shit boxes that don't work from new. They never spent an expense that they couldn't cut. They never met an expense they couldn't cut. So they sourced their frames for the Durango from Mexico. So at some point, the plant in Mexico changed the way that they were strapping down these frames to these flat cars. Because for those of you who don't know how automotive frames are shipped by flat car on the railway, there's like 20 of them stacked on top of each other and then held down with chains. It's very top heavy. It's very top heavy looking. They are almost as tall as tri-level auto racks. It's wild. Norfolk Southern sends them over the hump all the time, and I'm always amazed they don't come off. But Dodge clearly was not paying for the good straps, or they stopped paying for the good straps, because the factory in Mexico changed how they were strapping down these things and didn't tell anyone, because why the fuck would they? Fuck you. Maybe they told, like, it would have been Ferromex at this point, but
Who knows?
it was
But
not sent up the chain to the end shipper at Conrail. And so Conrail gets a hold of these things, and they're taking them down the Northeast Corridor. And this new shipment, the way that they are stacked and the way that they are tied down, the straps break, and one of the frames leans over and hits a catenary pole, and that undoes the entire stack and it starts the phrase dealing Dodge Dakota frames into backyards was used. So there are Dodge Dakota frames being sent into every backyard that backed up to the Northeast Corridor at this point in Delaware. And it is
Not quite that far north, but
is it?
So this was just north of Perryville. So you have the Postward Branch, which is kind of the main way that freight trains get onto the Northeast Corridor to go south towards Baltimore, or north to go towards like Delaware, like Delmarva, that whole business. So, but one of these slow-moving freight trains just came off, ran the Y at Perryville, was heading north, and at the north end of that section of track there, because it goes to 4 tracks, it connects down to 2 tracks at an interlocking called Prince. And there's this nice little sweeping curve. And of course, freight trains aren't going to run as fast as passenger trains, so most of the curves on the Northeast Corridor are set with the super elevation, or like the high rail is set higher for the passenger train speeds. And so the freight cars can take that, but they'll lean a good bit. And there was enough lean and sway in the stacks of these Dodge Durango frames that, yeah, one of the stacks leaned out enough to clip one of the catenary's poles, which broke all the bindings, and yeah, started dealing out these Dodge Durango frames. I don't think there's anybody that lives in that area, but it definitely would deal them out into a nice little wooded area. Ugh.
And so the story I'm so glad you're here because I would not have known that. But the story then gets even better because nobody realizes this until, and I'm not certain because it was relayed to me many months ago, whether a resident called or if the train arrived at the Durango plant empty, with this car empty. And so they had to figure out what happened. And eventually they go back down the line. They find this bent catenary pole. And the thing that happens is that whoever was in charge of this particular section of the Northeast Corridor at the time was not there. And he was called by the people who were there. And they basically were like, we're going to try it again. We're going to see what happened. So they stacked up all the Durango frames. They put them back on the car. And they strapped them down again. And they went for another go down the
No,
same.
it was a second shipment. It was a separate train. They were like, all right, we think it was just secured wrong. That one, is a bad thing. So we're gonna try it again. Go slow and measure it.
Yeah. And the thing is that the story that I was told was that they were on the phone with the guy who's in charge of this, or maybe it was the guy who was in charge of this was on the phone and he was relaying this to someone that he knew. But in either event, there's just this sound of snapping metal, and then oh God, they're going again, and then the phone hangs up. Because what had happened is that they found what happened by doing it a second time. And so the Durango frames were once again scattered to the 4 winds. And Zach, if you're saying anything, you muted yourself.
No, I hadn't yet.
But anyways, the Durango frames were scattered to the 4 winds. This time they figured out, and so they they fixed whatever was causing it. But here's the kicker. Obviously, the funny bit is this happening in the middle of the phone call. But if you bought a Dodge Durango in like 2002 or 2003, whenever they were making these ones in Newark, there's a non-zero chance that it rode like shit or maybe didn't track well. And that's because Dodge didn't write off the shipment. Dodge asked for the frames back, and those frames were later inserted underneath brand new Durangos and were sold to the general public.
I feel like this should be an episode in and of itself.
Unfortunately,
like a mini-sode.
Unfortunately, there's no written story of this. If you have a story like this, if you've ever heard some old yarn that's too funny to not be true, please send it to us. We'd love to hear that too.
But I was going to say before we go, I think our recent mentions by Well, there's your problem. And RailNatter have gotten us a bunch of attention, and we've gotten some fantastic news stories, and I really appreciate
Yes, we
what
do
has been
appreciate.
coming in.
We do appreciate the emails you guys have sent us. We don't have to bother our guests for a time that did you die? Do you have a story that you'd like to tell, Evan, or do you not have anything?
I don't know, the 5th? Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
He may have been on the wrong side of those incidents. He did work for Amtrak and NS.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that's the episode. Thank you so much for listening. I don't really have anything else to end this with.
I'm good. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
How long did this one wind up being?
I haven't
3.5 hours.
Oh,
sweet. New record.
No, it's not.
No. I think the Value Jet one was longer.
The Value Jet was 5 hours and 1 minute.
Oh my
Jesus.
God. No,
and
this is an average.
I did not cut out that much. I did not cut out that much.
Well, no, this has been fun to be here and kind of share a little bit of information with you guys.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you. We'll definitely have you back for a future episode involving future episodes involving the Northeast Corridor.
Oh, I'd be glad to be a part of it, man. I'm glad I can fry Zach's head.
Thank you for coming in.
Stuff and signals.
Thank you for coming in and actually providing those like on the ground perspective photos so we could kind of see how rough this area was for signaling. If you weren't paying attention to cap signals or didn't have functioning cap signals, perhaps.
I feel like I got a disclaimer that, like, number one, those were all taken under protection with dropper on track protection taken and RWIC on site. So there we go. And then number two, I mean, signaling has come a lot further like these days. So I feel like with the in-cap repeaters,
it is better.
They have signals with 3 colors now.
They did go to color lights.
4, because you got the lunar for restricting.
Oh, that's still the
red,
milky,
amber,
like,
green, and lunar.
Foggy white.
It's not white. It's lunar.
Only CSX calls it lunar.
That's
like
not
bluish
true.
Crap.
That's not true. I will argue this until I'm out of breath, and I don't know why. It's just tradition, and that's going to be the one thing, the one tradition that I will argue blindly forever.
Anyways. But no, it's been so much fun to be here, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking along with us. We're at this is episode 23. We're actually at the point where we're going to have to renew the Zencastr subscription in about a month.
Oh God.
So yeah. No, thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Oh wait, shit, he already ended it.